Do, 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 do. Do, do. Do, do, do. Do, do.
I'm your host, sabrinasalvati. I'm your host, sabrinasalvati. I'm your host, sabrinasalvati. I'm your host, sabrinasalvati.
All right, all right. Happy Thursday, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Sabs podcast. I'm your host, Sabrina Salvati. If you're new, I do want to let you know that Sabs podcast is a part of Revolutionary Blackout Network. You can catch me there on Thursdays for the Sabby and JB show. And you can catch me here on Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday. Shout out to everyone watching on YouTube, Rockfin, Twitter, and Rumble. And welcome back, guys. We have a big show tonight. There's a lot that has transpired in the past, actually since the last live stream. So much that we have to dig into. I do have a special guest that I do want to bring on tonight. But first and foremost, I do want to go ahead and show you what we are discussing tonight. Let's go ahead and hop right into it. Quite a bit to get into, ladies and gentlemen. Tonight, we are discussing Charlie Kirk, foreign intelligence. You will see there is Kash Patel right beside him. What is Kash Patel trying to hide? We're going to get into new information about this Charlie Kirk investigation and what Kash Patel may be trying to cover up. So we're going to get into all of that, ladies and gents. We're also going to discuss, this is an interesting story. Barack Obama has just endorsed Abigail Spanberger. I'm going to tell you who she really is, where she comes from, and of course, the backlash that is coming his way for, quote unquote, not endorsing a Black woman. So again, Barack Obama kind of brought this on himself. He put it out there like that. So of course, he is going to be held to task. We're also going to discuss, this is a big story. If you haven't been paying attention to some of the rulings that Donald Trump has been making, some of the orders he's been giving, Donald Trump has now ordered the Pentagon to start testing nuclear weapons. This puts all of us at risk. I'm going to tell you why this should not be a partisan issue. And if you are anti-war, you definitely need to pay attention to that segment. We're also going to discuss, if you haven't heard this story, the officer who killed Sonya Massey has been found guilty. We're going to show you a flashback of what transpired between the two of them there. And I'm also going to dive into a little bit of Officer Grayson's history and why he should have never been allowed on the force to begin with. We're also discussing Zohran, this new poll and the warning that is coming from his fellow New Yorkers. So we're going to go ahead and get into that one first because our special guests are from New York. That's right. The New Yorkers are here and they have quite a bit to say. Let's go ahead and introduce them. The first one is Professor Anthony Zinkus. You've seen him on here before. He is going to dive in about this. And we also have Blakely. Blakely is an activist organizer. Let's go ahead and bring both of them in. What is going on, fam?
Hello. Thanks for having us.
All right. It's great. It's great to have New Yorkers on here to talk about this because I want people to hear from everyday folks who are there. I do want to start off with the new poll that just came out about this New York City mayor race. Everybody needs to pay attention to this. As I told you guys before, these numbers are holding steady. It appears that Zohran is getting an increase and Andrew Cuomo is in trouble. Let's go ahead and show this here.
Polling suggests that this race is, simply put, not close at all. I know there are a lot of people on Twitter, a lot of Cuomo fans who think that this race is closing. I want what they're having, because if we take a look at the choice for New York City mayor, look, back in September, Mamdani was ahead by 15 points, my aggregate polls, 45 to 30%. You jump to now, it's basically the same story. If nothing else, Mamdani might have actually gained a point or two. Mamdani closing in on that 50% mark, 48%. You see Cuomo here at 31%. At this particular point, and we're getting close to where this particular point is election day, this race is, simply put, not close at all.
There's been talk about, older voters coming out and that was going to change things because he has such huge support from younger voters. What are you seeing on that?
Okay, yeah. So what could cause the polls to possibly be wrong? Well, maybe they're mismodeling the electorate. What Cuomo wants is a surge of older voters and younger voters to make up a lower percentage of the electorate than the polls suggest. Is that happening so far? Well, take a look here. The 2025 New York City electorate under age 45. If you look at Maris, they're projecting among all likely voters that's going to be 38%. What do we see in the early vote so far? It's basically the same percentage. We see him making up 36%. And I will note that the overall vote is usually a little bit younger than the early vote suggests. So this number is likely to climb a little bit and probably match this number. What we're seeing right now is it does seem to me that the pollsters are modeling the electorate correctly. They are getting that age divide right, which of course is very good news for Zohran Mamdani, because obviously those under the age of 45 very much support his campaign. Those older support Cuomo. And at this point, those under 45 are being modeled, it seems to me, correctly by the pollsters.
Yeah, there's always been this push to get younger people to vote, and now it is happening, and they are going.
That is exactly right. A much higher percentage of younger voters than 4 years ago.
Is there any precedent, though, for this, for any New York City mayoral candidate to surpass expectations compared to the polling?
Yeah, okay. So the question is, right, are the Cuomo folks living in a fantasy land, the fans of Cuomo living in a fantasy land, that maybe they can overcome this large polling lead for Zohran Mamdani? Well, at this particular point, it to me suggests no, based upon history. They are living in a bit of a fantasy land if you think you're going to be overcoming the polling. Why? Mamdani leads by 17 points right now. I look back at all of the final polling dating all the way back since 1989. The largest final polling average error was 11 points in 2005. 11 points is way less than 17 points. So at this point, it would take something unprecedented, at least in the last 36 years of New York City mayoral races, for Andrew Cuomo to overcome Mamdani's lead. Mamdani has the ball. It looks like he's running right for the end zone with no tacklers in front of him.
So I want to hear from Blakely and Professor Zinkus. What are you hearing from people in New York? Because I think that Andrew Cuomo still appears to be a little bit surprised. I talked to Professor Wolf recently, and he told me that he has also run into older voters that are excited and can't wait to vote for Zohran Mamdani. So what is helping Zohran here, and what do you feel is hurting Andrew Cuomo? We'll start with Blakely, and then we'll go to Professor Zinkas.
Yeah. So thanks again for having me. Good to see everyone. Hey, chat. So Andrew Cuomo is delusional. His whole campaign is delusional. And I think that although I hope that the polling is correct, I keep telling people that I'm talking to not to take anything for granted and to go out and vote as if Zohran is behind. Because I'm planning on door knocking for him this weekend. So, but people I've been talking to, everybody that I've been talking to has been excited about him, including everybody I know who is Jewish. Okay. So there is no, what I want to press, is that so much of this is them trying to will support for Andrew Cuomo into existence. Like there's a huge push. Like, let me put it this way. Hot girls for Cuomo is not a thing, but they're pretending like it's a thing. It's not a thing. It doesn't exist. It's like one person. And then they're trying, there's like a huge campaign on Twitter to try to push this narrative that there's like a surge for Cuomo coming out, that they keep doing this thing where they talk to Black New Yorkers and be like, look at all these Black people that support Cuomo. No, because he found some older Black voters who are more conservative in certain areas of the Bronx and certain areas of East Harlem. He's trying to make that happen. But the majority of Black voters under the age of 40, like the vast majority, are supporting Zohran. And a lot of the people most people that are also Jewish under the age of 50 are supporting Zohran as well. So I feel like this is one of those things where they're trying to do like a fake it till you make it thing to make it seem like he has more of a surge than he does. But like I said, Zohran is leading. Every single person I talk to is excited about him, including all the bodega owners I've been talking to about him, including my bodega owners who I'm talking to about him. That doesn't mean obviously that I'm telling anybody to stay calm about it. Like, to me, the worrying part is the amount of money that the billionaires are spending. And so the fact that they are still pushing so intensely and they're paying people to canvass. I saw people the other day. I asked this kid, he looked like he looked, honestly, he didn't even look like he was legally able to do it. He looked like he was like, it was when I went to go early vote. He looked like he was like 16. And I was like, are you getting paid to be here? Like, just, I'm not going to record you, nothing. Just tell me. He was like, yeah, handing out flyers. So I was like, there is no grassroots support, but sorry, I'll shut up now. But like I said, if you're in New York, do not treat this, especially if you are a millennial or Gen Z, like this is like, oh, we're good. We can sit back. We don't have to do it. Nope. Not only do I want Zohran to win, I want him to win in a way that humiliates the billionaires. I want it to embarrass them. I want Bill Ackman to cry.
Professor Zinkas, what are you hearing from people?
Same thing. It's so interesting today. I won't say what train it was, but I got off the subway and there was a gentleman handing out Cuomo. Little like, there's like brochures, but they're like made of cardboard. And I just looked at him. He looked to be in his 40s, Black New Yorker. And I said, off the record, are you getting paid? And he said, yes, and very well. So I don't know what he was getting paid, but I did talk to somebody a couple of weeks back who was getting $240 for an 8-hour shift. That's $30 an hour. So I echo what Blakely's saying. There's no organic Cuomo support. And additionally, those who are trying to stop Mamdani, they have no love for Cuomo. So like Cuomo he's not likable. He was driven from office because of all the things we know about. I mean, the harassment, the
nursing home deaths,
killing. And I told you, my aunt was one of those people. She died in April of 2020 because of that prick. And so, I'm hearing a lot of that, but I also want to echo what Blakely said, like, don't sleep on this. And my hope, oh, by the way, Emerson the Hill poll had Zohran Mamdani 25 points ahead. and hitting 50%. And why 50% is important. And look, I know there's a lot of people who are dubious on this, and they're thinking, we've been burned by Democrats before, and we have, but the proposals that matter most, and I talked about it when I was on your show last, Sabby, like the idea of that rent freeze, the free buses, the universal child care being free, that is going to make the difference between whether people can stay in the city or not. And if Mamdani gets 50% or over, making the case in Albany will be that much easier. That's why it matters. And also, don't sleep on the billionaires finding a way to cheat.
Yes.
Right.
The machine is real in New York.
Yes.
Like, I remember when Cuomo was running against Cynthia Nixon for the Democratic primary.
Oh, yeah.
I'm still registered as a Democrat just so I can vote in primaries. And I went, and I vote in every election. I vote in school board elections. Oh, I missed this year. But so I went, and they said, you're not registered. Magically, my registration disappeared. That happened to like a lot of people. So even though he doesn't control the mechanisms of state, he's got a lot of friends, powerful people. And, we've got to get over this hurdle and then really push and keep this energy going, because there's a few things agenda-wise that we, the people, need to be on top of that Mamdani administration for if he wins.
Yeah, some of the people that I've spoken to, their big thing is the rent, right?
Yeah.
Like they don't want their rent to continue to increase. Professor Zinkas, you mentioned people being priced out of the city. Similar situation here in Boston, Massachusetts. People are being priced out. It was just reported about a year ago that Boston is the most expensive place to raise a child. So yeah, like these cities, for people who are not aware, New York, Boston, these cities are losing people. Like people are leaving. If you have the money to leave, because not everybody has the money to move. But if you have the money to leave, people are like leaving these cities because they can't afford to raise families here. Or even if you don't have a family, it's very difficult to live here without having a number of roommates. And even then, a lot of people are still scraping by. So I also heard from Green Party members who are voting for Zohran Mamdani because obviously there's no third party candidate. And I do want to hear from both of you about this as well. This is where I do feel like third parties kind of drop the ball, right? Like your choices in this particular election are Zohran Mamdani, Andrew Cuomo, or Sliwa, who from what I understand has run multiple times, right? So and Sliwa was more conservative, but those are the choices, right? And it was Andrew Cuomo who made it more difficult for third party candidates to get on the ballot in New York. So that's why, for those who weren't aware, in 2024 for the presidential election, that's why even RFK Jr., with all the money that he had, was not able to stay on the ballot in New York State because of those rules that Andrew Cuomo implemented. Go ahead, Blakely.
Yeah. So to echo what Professor Zinkas is saying, this is obviously very personal for me. I love New York. I'm a New Yorker. I love my apartment, and I do get afraid that I'm going to get priced out. My rent has gone up by $700 in just the last 4 years, and I live in a rent stabilized apartment. So when people say, oh, first of all, people need to understand rent control and rent stabilization are not the same thing. I live in a rent stabilized apartment, so they are able to raise my rent by a certain amount. And under Eric Adams' corrupt ass, he has allowed that board to raise the rent to the max that they could every single year. So every time my lease renews, my building raises my rent, despite the fact that I've had a mouse infestation and despite the fact that, everything is always falling apart, whatever. But I want to stay here. I love New York. And me and other people that I know are going to get pushed out if there is not something done. And a lot of people who try to argue in bad faith against Zohran's policies being like, well, it's just like a rent freeze for what about the market? He's got a whole, a ton of things that we're talking about. We're not just talking about rent stabilization. We're talking about building affordable housing and a lot of other things that he's getting into. But these things are incredibly important. The free buses, I cannot tell you how much that would have meant to me when I was homeless, when I was living in a 3-quarter house, going to outpatient treatment for my addiction. There were times where I had so little money that I had to walk from the 3-quarter house in Bed-Stuy an hour to Crown Heights to make it to my outpatient. Like the free buses thing would have been transformational for me. And also the childcare thing. I don't have kids, but you know what? I'm not a Republican, so I understand that like helping myself is helping other people is helping myself. I would love to see universal childcare because I understand what a burden that would take off of working class people. And they lie when they say that it can't be done, just like they lied under de Blasio and said that the universal pre-K couldn't be done. And they lie when they say everybody is going to leave. This is, as Professor Zinkas was saying, so important that he get over 50%. So that the fight is going to be easier. I don't think he is, nor am I, under any illusion that Mamdani's going to get elected and all of a sudden everything's going to be great. No, we understand how insanely corrupt this state is, how corrupt and how much harder to fight the powers that be, that Andrew Cuomo made it while he was in power. So I know it's not going to be easy. And I also know that Zohran Mamdani is not perfect. And we're going to get into that too. But what I also know is that these are the choices. This is, and what I also know is that there's at least some aspirational things that he's saying he's going to do that I want to continue to fight for, including not being removed from the city that I love.
Yeah, I want to add something here. People mentioned the buses. Our buses here were free during the pandemic. Like, so this is possible. I don't know if ever, like they were free here. I think they were also, some of them may have been free in New York also during the pandemic. So like this has been tested before. Baltimore has a free bus called the Charm City Circulator or something like that. I have family in Baltimore.
Right.
That's free. So these things have been done before. But then there is one concern I know we all wanted to discuss tonight. And that is this idea of keeping Jessica Tisch as police commissioner. Of course, Z Squirrel is always on it. The Squirrel says Zohran Mamdani just said that he will keep fanatical Zionist maniac Jessica Tisch as police commissioner. I actually have a little bit of her statement that she made here at the ADL. You guys need to listen to this.
Many of the college campus protests were especially despicable, with open, blatant displays of intolerance. Jewish students were harassed and intimidated and threatened. Buildings were ransacked, and campus life was completely upended. And in many cases, the protesters' target was not and is not Israeli policy or geopolitics or even the horrors of war, but the Jewish people themselves. I want to be very clear. I speak on behalf of the women and men of the NYPD when I say much of this rhetoric is vile.
So everybody get an idea of who this woman is. Also, she kind of moves like a robot. I don't know what that's all about. She looks very awkward up there, but that's who Zohran said that he may keep. And Professor Zinkas, I know you had quite a bit to say about this.
Okay, so Jessica Tisch, the police commissioner of New York, I believe November 2024, she came on the job. I will just say blatantly, she is lying. She is absolutely lying about the movement for Palestinian liberation, the anti-genocide movement going on in New York and around the country, but I see what's in New York, absolutely is a place of tolerance and community. A significant so I teach at Columbia. A significant percentage of my students who in the School of Social Work were very, very involved in key organizing for that in April of 24 when they did the encampment. They were Jewish. The first major, we shouldn't have to say this, but for posterity's sake, and for anybody who's going to clip this, the first major pro-Palestine rally in New York since October 23 was when Jewish Voices for Peace took over Grand Central Station. So Jessica Tisch is lying. Jessica Tisch, first of all, wasn't qualified to be chosen as a police commissioner. For those that don't know, she comes from a very prominent family, the Tisch family, and is an heiress to a family fortune worth over $10 billion. That's how Jessica Tisch got that job under the corrupt, I mean, we know, corrupt, insanely corrupt Mayor Adams. So corrupt, the man who hired her, he made a deal with Trump to avoid prison time. Like, the guy's, well, and he's out of it, thankfully. So Tish is a racist. She's an Islamophobe. She is an enemy of free speech. So I don't care that she's a Zionist. She's allowed to have any belief she wants, but she is doing a job in the public trust. And her personal feelings cannot spill over, but they do. So in Butler Library last year, when Columbia students took over the library in protest of a genocide, this isn't a disagreement about a foreign policy. This is a literal genocide. So when students took over Butler Library peacefully, her cops, NYPD, went in there and like violently arrested students. It's reported in the Columbia Spectator, who was outside when this was happening, that then NYPD continued to push.
Professor Zinkas, I think your volume is going up and down. Are you at a microphone?
I don't know. I'm having computer issues. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Who knows? So, while she's been police commissioner, the police have brutally, violently treated people in New York expressing their First Amendment rights to free speech. So her personal beliefs have spilled over into the job that she wasn't qualified for to begin with, and police have brutalized people, and she's demonized. Does she realize when you demonize the protesters, you put their lives in danger and the safety of everybody in New York who's anywhere near a protest when it's happening? She is, excuse me, completely unacceptable. And it is, I think, really important once Mamdani wins and he gets over the finish line and hopefully over 50%, that there is a groundswell movement to say this person is unacceptable, because she has just continued the brutal NYPD policies that where they beat up and arrested Occupy folks and Black Lives Matter folks and climate people. I've been there for all of those. It's no different under her. And one final thing, and that is, well, I'll talk about that after if you have a second, about the case of a cop who murdered a New Yorker. And the name of the New Yorker was Alan Feliz, and it was Sergeant Rivera. And he shot the guy at a traffic stop and killed him. The administrative judge who looked at that case said, this officer made up a lie after. We don't believe his excuse, recommended he be fired. The Citizens Complaint Review Board recommended he be fired. Jessica Tisch overrode a judge and the Citizens Complaint Review Board, and not only didn't fire this guy, didn't discipline him at all. That's Jessica Tisch, protecting racist, murdering cops and beating up, allowing protesters to be illegally arrested and beat up by police. It's an unacceptable choice. She needs to be fired day one.
Similar to behavior from the IDF as well, right? Because the NYPD
Absolutely.
they train with the IDF, so they take those same tactics and use them against the protesters as well. Blakely, what's your take on this?
Yeah, I agree. I didn't know, which is like embarrassing that I didn't know, but I didn't know like about her Zionism. I knew that she was a trash bag as far as letting that guy off the hook that killed a New Yorker. I knew that. And I also knew that she was a Nepo baby from a really rich family that only got her job because our, comically corrupt current mayor, Eric Adams, helped her get the job. I didn't even know that she was like a genocidal Zionist until I saw Squirrel's thread. And I was like, oh, what? This is even worse than I thought. I don't even know how I didn't know that. Like, her speech at the ADL was to me so disgusting. So I already was, when he said that, I was already like, this is ridiculous. She needs to go, before I knew that. And then when I knew that, I was like, yeah, no. This is insane. First of all, I've gone to so many protests in New York City for Palestine. I can't even count how many I've been to. And I've worn my keffiyeh to all of them. The fact that that clown stood up there and demonized us protesters like that, and then said that she thought that the keffiyeh in a different event was a hate symbol. No, you're just racist then. You're just racist. You're Islamophobic. You're an anti-Arab bigot. And yeah, she absolutely needs to go. You can't do your job if you're not going to represent every New Yorker. And you've already made it clear that you're racist. You've already made it clear that you're Islamophobic. You've already made clear that also that you're corrupt. But like, I feel like with the corrupting, a lot of people just like kind of push that to the side because New York has a long history of being very corrupt in our politics. So I feel like that's kind of like whatever, she's corrupt. But like the thing about her being like a genocidal Zionist, and it came out, I'm sure you guys saw it, that was trending yesterday is another smear against Mandami that he compared the NYPD to the IOF. And people on Zionists were crying about it and they were sharing it. And I was like, when I saw it, the first thing I thought was, you better not apologize for this, Zohran. You better not apologize for this, because where's the lie? Everything he said in that clip from 2023 was accurate. And I'm like, so I'm assuming, and honestly, I don't care why he did it, that he did that as a way to help his poll numbers to get in. I think maybe that's why he did. But again, I don't really care what his reason for doing it. The point is, we need to reject it. We need to reject it. That is like the point. Like, we as the voters, as the people who have supported him, need to come together and put pressure on him to oust her and say he needs to find somebody else. Because this is a diverse city. This is a city full of Muslims, full of Arabs, full of people that are pro-Palestine, that are anti-genocide. And the way that she has demonized those protesters and this movement, and the way she allowed the NYPD to attack the protesters, you are not... If the shoe were, let me just put it this way. If the shoe were on the other foot and she had spoken that way, there was a Muslim police commissioner that had spoken that way about Jews, gone forever, out of politics. She'd have to leave the country. So like, this double standard can't stand. And that's why I also need my other Muslim brothers and sisters to make sure that we're putting the pressure on there too. Because I've met a lot of Muslims personally that have told me that they didn't want to say anything or they didn't want to speak up because they feel afraid. And I totally understand that. But this is the time where I hope that, emboldened and inspired by Zohran Mamdani, that you exercise your power, that you do speak up, because Muslim New Yorkers have just as much of a right to exercise their political muscle and their political power as anybody else. And it's about time we start doing that.
I want to just add.
I was going to say, why do you think he made this decision, considering he was already so far ahead in the polls? Scott the World said here, Mandami is only saying that technically he'll keep until he's in, and then she'll be out soon enough. That way he's not lying. Why do you think he felt the need to do this?
All I can do is speculate, because I don't know for sure. I wish I would have gotten invited to that fucking Creators for Zohran event yesterday, because that would have been my question. Why did you ask for her to stay on? But I honestly can't, obviously I can't get into his head. My assumption, as somebody who loves politics and is into politics, is that he did it to help himself. That he knew before the debate, because he did it, if you guys remember, right before the debate.
Right.
He knew that he was going to get attacked during the debate. And so he did it for that. But again, I still wish he wouldn't have done it. But I don't know why he did it. In the same way that it drove me crazy that, I try to give him a little bit of grace, because he's the first Muslim candidate that is running. And the Islamophobia, if anybody has been following this campaign, has been grotesque. Like, I have never seen so much blatant, open racism in my fucking life. Like, and that's saying
I have.
like,
I definitely have, but yeah.
Well, you're Black. So like, of course, like, you've experienced it. But like, I've never seen somebody be so out and proud with it. Just like so openly, like, it's deranged, the campaign that has been run against him. So I'm trying to have a little bit of grace for a position that I would never be in as a white person. I don't know what it's like to be him, going through that amount of racism and Islamophobia. But at the same time, I still also want to make sure that we're holding him accountable. So, it's about that. Because when I saw him apologizing or like backpedaling on what he said about, when he was on Fox News, that drove me crazy too. Because again, I'm like, on the one hand, I'm trying to put myself in his shoes and be like, okay, I'm speaking from a place of privilege as a white person, but also I also want to make sure that he's not backpedaling on what he said, because I need Zohran to remember that the reason why many of us are supporting him is because we like his stance on Palestine, and that we're going to back him up. Like he needs to remember that, like, people who are here on the ground have his back when it comes to that. So, I don't know why he did it. I just know that we, as the people that support him, need to make sure that we are continually pressuring him to move her out, because that's not acceptable to have somebody that racist and that Islamophobic, and that openly, as the professor said too, against our free speech rights.
And I think he did it. Oh, I'm sorry, but you said it was right before the debate. He took it away as an issue, right? Like, again, I wish those candidates would be there and would just have the guts to be like, nope, this is what I believe. But it is important to say, to emphasize, Zohran Mamdani did not win the Democratic primary with the most votes ever in a Democratic primary in New York. Despite his views on Palestine, he won because of them.
Yep.
And, having been teaching at Columbia, I've heard the stories from the students, and some of them made it into onto social media, but there were some that never talked about it. A student who, I mean, if you met her, she just graduated last spring, thankfully. But that was tenuous. A lot of them got expelled, it was horrendous.
Yep.
She had her head bashed into the side of a truck by an NYPD patrol officer and received a concussion. She was complying with an officer's order to disperse onto the sidewalk, but apparently didn't move fast enough. And another thing that reflects the racism now of Tish, and that is Islamic women who were at protests were forced to have their hijabs removed while they were in custody with the NYPD. Can you imagine? It's just, again, Blakely talks about this, like, what's it like to know every day someone's looking at you and thinking, like, you're a terrorist, you're a thief, you're this or that. It's horrendous. But the violation that these women were humiliated. Imagine if they did that to a Jewish person, some, Orthodox, we're in New York, we've got everybody. Some Orthodox women wear head coverings. It would be horrendous if they were made to remove them in police custody. So the racism under Tish has not gotten better. In some ways, it's gotten worse. And she is not fit. And I think these are the words that need to be said. Jessica Tish is not fit to lead the largest police force in the most diverse city in the United States. She is
Yeah,
not
can I just
fit.
say one thing, last thing about that? That's what I'm saying too, because NYPD is incredibly diverse. Like, people don't realize actually how like diverse the actual force is when you're just on the ground dealing with them every day. You see them every day, like whatever. But that's also what I meant when I said I've never seen racism like this so embraced, is that usually, and again, I'm not talking about the experience, I'm talking about what's tolerated. Usually our media, at least, or the people in power, will pretend to give a shit about racism. There's usually like an air of like pretending, like, oh no, we're really concerned about it, when they're not. They're not even pretending. Like that, like Andrew Cuomo will say something insanely racist against Zohran, and the media will be like, yeah. Anyway, like,
It's
what?
it's out. It's out in the open, and it has a lot to say about like the establishment, what they want, what the billionaire class wants, and they're not getting their way. I like, again, he is not decreasing in the polls; he's continued to increase. Regardless of all the smear campaigns that they have run against him, he has continued to increase in the polls. So I think that I look at it like this. I think Andrew Cuomo needs to lose for a number of reasons that we've already, we've talked about before multiple times on the show. But also, I think that it needs to be a wake-up call to the old guard that the way that you are used to doing things is no longer wanted. It's not working anymore. That people are starting to see. Look at all the people that are in bread lines right now, right? Like, so people are tired of the I'm just not that other person, so vote for me. People are tired of the fear mongering. People are looking at their wallets and they're like, listen, like Blakely said, your rent continues to increase and you're still in the same apartment. Things like that. Now, I would go one step further and I would say, I think that one thing that should change when it comes to renting, I think that if you live in the same apartment for X number amount of years, I think you should have the opportunity, if you want to own that apartment. And we just don't have that, right? Like there are some people that have done like rent to own like programs, and those can sometimes turn out to be kind of scammy. But I mean, just in general, in the United States, let's just say 5 years. If you lived in the same apartment for 5 years, I think if you want to, you should have the option to own it. Because that's another problem we're running into, right? Like people were telling me, they're like, oh my gosh, this is going to hurt the homeowners in NYC if Zohran wins. And I'm like, what homeowners in NYC? I don't know anyone who owns a home in New York City. I don't know anyone that live, not in Brooklyn, not in Staten Island, not in Queens. I don't know anyone that owns property in New York City. Everyone I know and have known over the years have been renters. And so I think that people are frustrated that they're not getting ahead, economically. And it's New York is just one example. I mean, we can point to other cities like San Francisco as well, where we have just become a class of renters. And it's a big problem. And I think more people need to call that out. Like, so I would go a step further and not just say, no, we're not going to increase people's rent, but also there needs to be some type of, opportunity for people to own the apartment that they actually live in.
I agree with that 100%. And I like that you're even coming up with ideas that are affirmative. That's the thing that first made me even slightly interested in Zohran's campaign, is because I feel like we're so used to every election is about fear mongering. It's never about anything affirmative. Like, what could I actually do to make your life even marginally better? And like, that would be amazing to like have the opportunity to own the apartment that we actually live in. And by the way, sorry, I want to hear what Professor has to say, but I have to address this. Somebody in chat was like, was Blakely insulting Sabby with the black comment? No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. The point I was trying to make was, as a white person, of course, I've never experienced the type of racism that somebody like Sabby has experienced in her whole life. Have I actually seen outside regular insane races with Confederate flags in the South? Of course I have. What I meant when I said that is, as a white person who's never had to experience the type of racism that a black person, a Latino person, or an Arab person has had to experience, I'm talking about on a political campaign run in the media. I have never seen someone so openly run such an openly racist campaign and the media completely co-sign it openly in the way that I have seen New York City, the New York City establishment, and our media co-sign on the racism and the Islamophobia against Zohran in such an over-the-top way.
Right.
That's what I was saying.
Yeah, I know what you meant. But you want to wrap us up really quick, Professor Zinkas?
It is over the top. The Islamophobia is over the top. Right after October 7th in New York, uptown, one of the wonderful, halal falafel stands, those little carts, right? There was a
Best.
former Obama administration official who berated this guy, called him a terrorist, and was proud of it and knew he was being filmed. And by the way, the person who identified him was a Columbia student. Thank you to those amazing students. So the Islamophobia it's bizarre how accepted it's been in the press, and that Cuomo could laugh at a joke about Mamdani, like, oh, if there was another 9/11 on a podcast interview, Mamdani would celebrate it, and Cuomo like laughs and goes, well, that's another problem. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? So Cuomo's racist. He has been. He's, before any of all these controversies happened with him, he was cutting taxes for billionaires in New York. He might as well be a Republican, but the parties are so similar at that level anyway. Um, so, listen, I want him to win. I want Mamdani to win. I would like him to get over 50%. We got to keep the pressure on with the state of New York. I think what I've been saying for a while, this race and these issues are bigger than one candidate. I think what it lets people know is that government can serve them. And what Blakely was saying earlier about, well, we can't, that's bullshit. I had a post about this the other day, which was like, every time the Democrats say, well, you just can't. Yes, you can. Trump proved you can just ...
Yep.
whatever he wants to do. And by the way, if he gets sued in court and the court says it's not, he'll but I did these 5 other things I got away with. So imagine if we had somebody at the national level who did everything they could to give us universal health care or universal child care at a national level. And just to wrap up on the Tish thing, it's really important. New Yorkers are not safe with Police Commissioner Tish. She's not fit to lead the most diverse and largest city in the nation. She's not qualified. Her personal feelings have gotten in the way of her doing her job, and she has allowed racist police violence to go unpunished. And that makes everyone in New York, especially black and brown people and Islamic folks, less safe. Mamdani, if anybody on your team is listening, Tish needs to be fired day one. She is not fit.
Can I say one last thing? Sorry, I know we got to go, but the last thing I wanted to say to echo what you were kind of saying earlier about the wanting something or something positive is that is another reason why I believe that they are fear-mongering so much about Zohran, the billionaire class, why they're hysterical, why they're freaking out, is not because they think he's going to fail. Oh, it's socialism, it's communism, he's going to ruin New York, blah, blah. I actually think that hysteria is coming from the fear that he might be successful because they have conditioned us so much. And I see it all the time with liberals and blue MAGA when they fight with me and they tussle with me in my comments. We can't have this. We can't. They have conditioned Democratic voters, regular people, working class people for so long to accept nothing, to want nothing, to hope for nothing, that I think that they are afraid of Zohran winning because they're afraid that he might actually be successful, and they can't have that. Because if he is, and he even got half of his agenda done, then we might start asking, no, not asking, we might start demanding more, and they can't have that. They want us to be crushed in spirit. So we need to say, no, we are not going to be crushed. We're going to make sure that we fight for this because we can and absolutely deserve to have better than what we have right now. All of us.
Those are all good points. Oh, thank you. Thank you both so much. Again, 2 New Yorkers here telling you their experience and why they supported Zohran and why Cuomo is not doing well in the polls. Professor Zinkas and Blakely, thank you both so much for coming on.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sabby.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was Professor Zinkas and Blakely. Again, 2 New Yorkers who have their ear to the ground, organizing out there with the people. They know what's up. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight's theme is what's the risk? And that's what I want you to kind of ask yourself as we get into tonight's stories. What is the risk, especially with this first one here, especially with the first one that we're going to go into. If you have not done so, ladies and gentlemen, please be sure to smash that like button. And if you're new, don't forget to like, sub, and share like a Care Bear. Let's keep this party moving on, ladies and gents. Let's go to some of the comments, and then we will do the damn thing. Thank you for the super chat, Roger. Sab, been more than 24 hours, and I'm still happy. The joke has just begun. My favorite part. I hope you play that when interviewing Zinkas and Blakely, 2 New Yorkers. Thank you so much for that. Sebastian says, I still don't support the duopoly, but I hope Mamdani beats Cuomo. And thank you for this one, Roger. Good grief, $30 an hour for New York City. They get shorted. AC is cheap. Thank you, New York Varsity. Look, we are going to have plenty of time to judge Mamdani like everyone else, but let's take this small moment to appreciate that demo Crips and Rebloodlikins went after him and got. Thank you, Sherelle. Hey, Sabby, have you heard of a YouTuber called Mahmoud OD? Yes, I have. He covers news in the Middle East and Gaza really well. Do you think you guys could ever have an episode together? You're both cool. I can try. If I find his contact information, that's usually the thing, the hurdle. Find a contact info. I think we probably could. But yes, I am familiar with them. Thank you, New York Varsity. Pictures of planes flying into buildings next to Mondami saying never forget, and then you forgot. This is a real horrible lived experience in New York. Yeah, some people have been very cruel, man. Thank you, China. Hey, Sab, could you please cover Sudan genocide? I am working on getting a guest on to discuss that. Yes. Thank you. Let's get the comment on Rockfin and we'll keep it moving, ladies and gents. Hey, hey, hey. Thank you for the tip on Rockfin, Roger. In 2020, New York State passed a law where called Special Prosecutor to strengthen and codify Executive Order 147, I think you mean into law. This legislation authorizes New York State AG office with jurisdiction in all cases of police killings and deaths in police custody. Strengthening and memorializing helps ensure fair and thorough investigations and, when warranted, effective prosecutions in tragic incidents that the criminal justice system has historically failed to address. Also, de Blasio got rid of qualified immunity for NYPD, violating our Fourth Amendment rights, prohibits unwarranted search and seizures, and Eighth Amendment rights. Prohibition against cruel and unusual punishment. Tell your students that, Professor Zinkus, former and current. We still got a way to go to get rid of QI for the First Amendment. Thank you so much for that, Roger. We are going to give a shout out to everyone who is a Sabby patron. Thank you guys so much for your support. Really do appreciate you, fam. If you are interested in being a Sabby patron, I have 5 categories. Ultimate, Sabinators, there's Sabsters. Don't forget about those Sabbies. I think they are cool as well. And we also have a group called Members. All of their names are listed here, ladies and gents, and you can also see their names scrolling across the bottom of the screen there on the ticker throughout the show. Hey, hey, hey. Thank you, guys. Appreciate you, fam. Ladies and gentlemen, we have more to get into tonight, so get comfortable. I do want to go ahead and wish everybody an early happy Halloween if you celebrate, if you have kids and they go trick-or-treating and all that jazz. Hope you have fun and be safe out there tomorrow night. Please be safe out there, whatever you choose to do. And we're going to move on to the next story. Yeah. I know, Miranda. I know it's hard to get journalists on that have been there. I had a gentleman on a while back, been trying to reach him again, but I think I have someone else that's going to be able to come on to talk about it. But you're right. Yeah, it's not getting a lot of coverage. Okay. Let's get into this next story, ladies and gentlemen. We need to ask ourselves this question: what is the risk? Well, what is the risk with the Pentagon testing nuclear weapons? That is where we're at now, folks. Believe it or not, Donald Trump has made an order to the Pentagon to start testing nuclear weapons. I'll get to my quote here in just a second, but I do want to show you what he said. The United States has more nuclear weapons than any other country. This was accomplished including a complete update and renovation of existing weapons during my first term in office. Because of the tremendous destructive power, I hated to do it, but I had no choice. Right. Russia is second and China is a distant third, but we will be even within 5 years. Because of other countries' testing programs, I have instructed the Department of War to start testing our nuclear weapons on an equal basis. That process will begin immediately. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President Donald Trump. So first and foremost, let me point you to what I said here when I shared this. Everyone needs to hear this. As long as we live in a capitalist society, there will be wars. As long as there is profit to be made, there will be wars. Stop focusing on red and blue teams. Nuclear war ends us all. Everybody, take a breather for just a second. This is the part I think that some people don't want to hear. War is profit for the military industrial complex. So Lockheed Martin, Raytheon, all of these weapon manufacturers, they make money every time there is war, there is conflict. They make money off of that. And I know quite a bit about this. And I told you guys before, I have family members that were in the military. I have family members that work for defense. I know quite a bit about this. And I'm here to tell you, as long as we live in a capitalist society, there will be war. If there were no profit to be made, then we can get out of this a lot easier. But there's money to be made. And some people need to start asking this question. The United States wants to be the police of the world. The United States has been just itching for a war with Russia. They have been itching for a war with China. That's why you hear both parties criticize China. Oh, we got to watch out for China, the boogeyman. Oh no, we got to watch out for Russia. We got to watch out for everybody, but we're the ones that are overthrowing leaders in other countries. We're the ones that are stealing resources from other countries. We are usually the aggressor. What is eventually going to happen if things do not change, after the US gets as far as they think they'll get with Russia, then they'll proceed on to China. Eventually, it'll get to the point where there's no more countries the US can exploit or extort or steal their resources, to the point where eventually the resources are going to run out. These resources don't last forever. And then there will come a time where people ask, well, what do we do now? Because we don't have any more oil. What do we do? These are things that you need to prepare yourself for. But the reason why we continue to have these endless wars is because we live in a capitalist society. And that's something that people don't want to reckon with. You may not like socialism. You may not like communism. But as long as there is a profit to be made, these things will happen. So now we have Donald Trump, who people were calling the president of peace, now out here proudly letting you know that the U.S. is going to start testing nuclear weapons. And no, this is not a partisan issue. This is not something that you should let your political parties grab a hold of you from talking to your neighbor about. If there is a nuclear war, all of us are impacted. That's it. That's the end. There's no surviving that. If you survive the blast, then you have to deal with the radiation that is left behind. And this is the reality that everyone has to come to terms with. There's no beating that. When you hear people cheer on, yeah, get Russia, yeah, get China, there is no beating a nuclear war. They dove into this on Morning Joe, and even they look a little bit scared. I want you to pay attention to the looks on their faces.
So shortly before his meeting with President Xi Jinping, President Trump announced the United States will resume testing nuclear weapons. In a social media post, Trump wrote that he has ordered the Pentagon to resume testing on an equal basis with Russia and China. The U.S. conducted its last nuclear weapons test in 1992. Former President George H.W. Bush signed a moratorium on testing that year. Here's what the president said on Air Force One overnight when asked about his social media post.
We have more nuclear weapons than anybody. We don't do testing. We've halted it many years ago. But with others doing testing, I think it's appropriate that we do also.
Any details around the testing, sir? Like where, when?
It'll be announced. We have test sites. It'll be announced.
As the New York Times reports, some nuclear scientists were quick to point out Trump announced testing on an equal basis with other countries. That would mean testing delivery systems, which is all Russia has done, and not warheads. One expert notes it would take the U.S. a considerable amount of time to conduct a nuclear test.
if you look at the looks, look at the expression on their faces, right? They look concerned, as they should be. And this is coming from Joe and Mika of all people, right? Remember, they met Donald Trump. It's not like they don't know who Trump is. Remember, they went to Mar-a-Lago and they hung out with Trump and everybody. So remember that, right? So we are living in very, very scary times. And people ask, like, why focus on geopolitics? Because it does impact us back home here in the United States. And I'll say it again and again and again. You're not surviving a nuclear war. There's no surviving that. People ask me my opinion about how I feel about this. I don't think any country should have nuclear weapons. I don't think you should have it at all. You know, how'd we get here? We have a treaty, had a nuclear treaty, and the U.S. has not tested nuclear weapons in over 30 years. That is now about to change because of the order that is coming from Donald Trump. Let's hear a little bit more here.
David Ignatius, the president, then in the follow-up questions was asked, are you talking about China here? And he said effectively, it has to do with others. They all seem to be testing. In his words, China is developing nuclear weapons, not testing them, I guess, as far as we know. But who is this aimed at, as you read between the lines?
My guess is it's aimed principally at Russia. Russia is making significant new announcements about strategic weapons. You know, a weapon that can cause a tsunami was the latest thing the Russians announced. Russians are big into intimidation with announcing nuclear weapons related projects, and Trump hasn't been shy about coming back. Talking about the U.S. is going to reposition its nuclear subs if Russia seems to be threatening, and there may be some of that in this announcement. One thing that's interesting about Donald Trump is that from the earliest days in politics, he's been interested in nuclear weapons limitation. So the idea that he could somehow draw China and Russia into a discussion about nuclear issues next year, I don't think is far-fetched. I think that would be an ambition for him. But as to today's announcement, I do see them mainly focused on Russia.
They should not be so calmly when they are discussing this, right? So I want you to think about what communities may be impacted from those tests as well. We're going to look at the treaty here that was made years ago. We're going to look at that treaty and the reason why they decided to stop doing those nuclear tests. But think about the communities that may be impacted because of it, right? If you wonder why you see these increase in rates of cancer, skin diseases, think about the environment. Think about the air. Think about the chemicals in the air. When I was a kid, and I don't know if it's the same for a lot of you. When I was a kid, it was very rare to hear about people kids that had cancer. Like that wasn't as common. I hear about it more and more now, right? And some of that I think may be the food, the chemicals that are put into our food. But some of that is the environment. It's the chemicals in the air, like Cancer Alley in Louisiana, for example. So we'll come back to that in just a second, but I want to bring this to your attention. Why did the U.S. stop testing nuclear weapons in the first damn place? Let's go ahead and get into this here. Of course, they're talking about Trump called for renewed nuclear tests. So they're getting into that as well. Let's go ahead and get into a little bit of the history here. The United States conducted over 1,054 explosive nuclear tests from 1945 to 1992. That's according to the Library of Congress. More than 920 of them were done at the Nevada National Security Site, a historic facility where nuclear tests were conducted for more than 4 decades. Let's continue on here. Experiments date back to the Trinity test on July 16th of 1945. That was in New Mexico, which confirmed that the atomic bomb could conduct nuclear detonation. Now, let's get into the military role. The military played a large role in testing nuclear weapons for decades. though it wasn't solely through the Department of Defense as Trump suggested on Wednesday. A division of labor and how tests were done and recorded was created in 1962. The Atomic Energy Commission, which is now the National Nuclear Security Administration of Department of Energy, would handle development and testing. Let's continue on here. Why did the U.S. stop nuclear testing? President Eisenhower announced a pause in testing in 1958, with the understanding that the Soviet Union would also halt its test. The Soviet Union began testing again in 1961, so the U.S. did too. In 1963, the U.S., the UK, and the Soviet Union signed the Partial Nuclear Test Ban Treaty to stop nuclear tests in the atmosphere, outer space, and underwater. The decision was made over environmental concerns and the fallout of the Cuban Missile Crisis per CSIS. So again, environmental concerns. This is what I was saying before. When they are testing these weapons, those chemicals just don't disappear. They're in the air, which means people are breathing that in. The Threshold Test Ban Treaty in 1974 limited the yield of underground testing to below 150 kilotons. In 1992, Congress passed a resolution that prohibited the U.S. from conducting underground nuclear tests unless a foreign state did so, leading to current moratorium. The 1997 Comprehensive Test Ban Treaty sought to ban all nuclear testing worldwide, and it proved largely successful, even though it was not universally ratified. And then you will see here that President Clinton signed the CTBT and sent it to Congress for ratification, but the Senate rejected it, citing national security concerns. So you can see there as to why the U.S. had that treaty and why they decided to stop testing these nuclear weapons. But you don't go into doing this unless you have intentions that maybe you want to use them at some point in time. And they're pointing towards Russia and they're pointing their fingers towards China. And it's like, it's one country or another. You know, at one point it was Afghanistan, right? Like, oh, it's Afghanistan. Oh, my God, it's Libya. Oh no, it's Venezuela. Now it's, it's Russia, it's China. Everybody is this scary boogeyman, except for the United States that goes around the world wreaking havoc everywhere. We'll get back into this clip here.
And Richard, of course, the timing was before he went into the summit with Xi. At the same time, though, there was a response to what Vladimir Putin just said a few days ago about nuclear testing.
Yeah, a couple of things going on here. One is China has the fastest growing nuclear arsenal in the world. And that's an important thing. The Chinese look at Ukraine, interestingly enough, and they say, hey, the Americans didn't help Ukraine directly. They sent them arms. They didn't send troops. That's a model potentially for crisis over Taiwan. Why didn't the Americans go into Ukraine? It's because of Russia's nuclear arsenal. So China is intent on growing its arsenal as fast as it can, not testing, though, just growing it. Russia's building.
Pause. So you have to remember who is speaking here, right? So he is doing the job of the deep state. He's doing the job of the military industrial complex by appearing on corporate media and telling you China is building this, Russia is building that, because they need to do that in order to make an excuse for when they decide to go to war with them. And I'm here to tell you right now, if the U.S. goes to war with Russia, I will miss you all dearly. I'm telling you right now, if the U.S. goes to war with Russia or goes to war with China, I will miss all of you, because that will be the end of that. There's no way. No way. We're not beating that. We're not stopping that. And people may wonder, well, why would they want to risk the American people? It's not like they haven't risked the American people before. Hell, right now, they don't even want to feed people. The elites, the billionaires, and I'm going to go into a deep dive about this on Sunday's live stream about what I think their plan is. We're really going to break that down. But the elites and the billionaires, you guys have to know, these people have bunkers underground. Bill Gates has a bunker. Larry Fink has a bunker. Mark Zuckerberg, they're prepared. If something were to pop off, they're going to be just fine. They have a bunker that they can go to. And honestly, there's quite a number of them that want to get rid of the rest of us anyway. All this push that you see towards AI, replacing these jobs, etc., they are already paving the way to replace the workers. Once they replace the workers, they don't really need us around. They would not want nothing better than to have a society where it's them, AI, machines, robots, people, things that aren't going to tell them no, things that aren't going to ask for benefits, like healthcare, things like that. They wouldn't want nothing better than that. This is why I tell you, your war is against the establishment, the billionaires, the elites. Your war should not be against your neighbor who works at Dunkin' Donuts. And in order to keep us separated, because everyone should be outraged by this, because there is no winning a nuclear war. I hope everyone in America understands that. There's no winning that. They have tried to eliminate people in this country in different ways. There were Cold War experiments that were done on people in this country. The war on drugs, bringing crack into neighborhoods. They don't care. If they had things their way, they would eliminate the poor, maybe keep some of the upper middle class. But they don't care about the rest of us. And here's the thing. The sooner more people start to realize this, that your war is against the elites, is against the billionaire class, the sooner you will realize red team and blue team isn't as different as you think. Yes, we have differences on policies and things like that, but honestly, that's on purpose. These parties exist to divide the people on purpose, because as long as they have you focusing on hate the Republican or hate the Democrat, or you're not on my team, I'm not on your team, as long as they have you focused on that, then you're not focusing on the people who are turning the damn wheel. And they love that. Going a little bit more here.
Building more delivery systems, plus the U.S.-Russian nuclear arms control agreements. Basically, the current one, the New START agreement, ends in a few months. We have to have massive negotiations with Russia. I also see this aimed at that. So it's basically pushing back on Putin, saying, if you won't agree to have serious nuclear arms control talks, we have options ourselves.
So see, I gotta tell you, yes, potential said, Sabby, you go in there tonight. Yeah, this is the thing. What's the risk? The risk is nuclear war. And there's no coming back from that. That's just a reality. There's no technology that is going to save us from a nuclear war. We have to come to the realization, and when I talk about the profit-driven market, profit-driven society that we live in, we have to come to the realization that, guess what? In a capitalist society, there will always be war. And that's the part I think a lot of people don't want to swallow that pill, but that's the reality. If there's no profit to be made, then all the wars just shushed away. But there's profit there. There's profit. That's why another reason they don't want to give people universal health care in this country. There's profit in the for-profit healthcare system. There's profit in keeping people sick. Because you can't tell me, you guys let me know how you feel, but you can't tell me all these years that there has been cancer research. You mean to tell me that in other countries, they've come up with different treatments and they've claimed cures for some of these things, but in the United States, all these years for cancer research, and you mean to tell me they still haven't found a cure for cancer? That sounds like a business model. Something to think about. So testing nuclear weapons is not a good sign. This is heading in the wrong direction, and people need to stop calling him the president of peace. He's just as much as a war hawk as the people who came before him. Let's go to some of the comments. Thank you, Kenman. Sabby, do you like Donnie Darko? Donnie Darko. I think I've seen that. Is that the movie with where the guy keeps seeing the bunny rabbit? I think that's the one. E.G. Butler said it's a real shame how ignorant the public is about capitalism. It has to go. It's a big problem. Thank you, Ace Play. China has a hydrogen bomb. No one else has it. And nobody should have. And this is what I said before. None of these countries should have these things. There should be none. It's insane. It's insane. Absolutely crazy, guys. Okie dokie. Let's get the comment on Rumble. Thank you. All right. What is the risk, ladies and gentlemen? Thank you for the Rumble Rant Goo 81. Hey, Sabby, do not get Mahmoud Oud on. He is Al Jalani supporter and supported the overthrow of Assad. Oh, when viewers like me question it, I was attacked that I am not Palestinian by his bots. Think about it. Interesting. I didn't know that. And thank you for this one. How many people get deplatformed and demonetized, but he is still on YouTube? Better to get Laith Maroof and Dimitri Icarus. Okay. And thank you. Goo81 says go Blue Jays. All right, ladies and gents, we are moving on to the next story. Dun, dun, dun. Okay. What is the risk? Jamaica was hit by a horrible, horrible storm, Hurricane Melissa. And for those of us that lived in places that are frequently hit by hurricanes, I got to tell you, Category 5 is not good, bruh. Whenever you hear there's a Category 5 coming, that is not good. So people in Jamaica are struggling right now. That island has been wrecked. People are devastated. You're going to see that for yourself here. Like I said, a Category 5 is nothing to mess with. Let's go ahead and get into how people are dealing in Jamaica.
Our George Solis spent the day making his way to hard-hit Santa Cruz. And George, we're already seeing some of that damage behind you. Tom, we're in hard-hit Santa Cruz. Buildings here devastated. This one right here used to be standing. You can see now it is nothing but debris and rubble. Roadways here very treacherous to get in and around different neighborhoods. And there are still parts of this island that are virtually inaccessible. Tonight, the first look at Melissa's catastrophic trail of destruction through Jamaica.
It was horrible, horrific, terrifying, the worst day of my entire life.
Homes surrounded by water, roofs ripped off, street after street littered with debris.
Food, everything gone, everything gone.
Officials say at least 5 bodies were found today, one an infant. We set out from Kingston this morning to get as close to the town where Melissa made landfall as we could. This is what some of the highways look like heading into western Jamaica after Hurricane Melissa. Jamaican police using chainsaws to clear some of the heaviest debris off the highways. As we got closer to ground zero, it got even worse. I'm here in the town of Santa Cruz, one of the hardest hit by Hurricane Melissa. Part of the roadway here covered in mud, bringing traffic to a standstill in some parts. Residents taking it upon themselves to help with the cleanup. Chadley Brown describing how he got to safety.
Water inside. We up here, so you have to swim. Yeah.
You had to swim?
Yeah.
But as we got on the road again, a sudden stop. This right here, the end of the road, we were trying to make it to Black River, but you can see this power line here, one of many obstructions in the roadway. You can see traffic as far as the eye can see. We can go no further.
Yeah. So one of the things I wanted to add is that people have to realize Jamaica doesn't have as many resources as we do here in the United States. So again, they've never had, from what I understand, a storm this large in over hundreds of years. And they just don't have the resources to put things into place where there can be those protections the way that we do here. If you ever dealt with hurricanes here, like I lived in the Carolinas, we've had some big ones, right? But we've also had like hurricane parties in a Category 3. Category 5 is not something to mess around with, right? But we are able to board up the windows of houses, buildings, and you're kind of accustomed to getting them. And we have more resources that can help us out. Jamaica doesn't have that. So that island being hit by a Category 5, it's going to be very devastating for people there. And what is really troubling, if you've never experienced a hurricane, the winds can, if there's very strong winds, like trees are knocked down, trees can fall over your house. We have seen trees go through homes, right? And then you have to worry about the flooding that comes after the fact. People have lost their homes before in hurricanes like down south that I've seen because of the flooding.
The monster Category 5 storm plunged 77% of the island into the dark, making communication with the hardest hit areas difficult, including Black River. This video was taken inside the police station there as Melissa hit. The hallways inundated with water. Today, workers pushed ambulances up Black River's blocked and muddy roads. And take a look at the eerie scene inside the Montego Bay Airport, water pouring through the roof. So many Americans who traveled there for vacation, now stuck.
It's devastating, and I honestly thought I was going to die.
At the Catalonia Hotel, the ceiling is shredded, the restaurant torn apart. David Watkins is stranded with his wife and 2 young sons in Montego Bay.
Right now, we're just in survival mode, trying to find a way out.
Tom just spoke with hotel owner Houston Moncure, who sheltered in a bathtub with his wife and infant son.
That had to be incredibly scary as a new father.
I didn't know what it was going to be like for him. My wife and I just did our best to stay calm.
Meanwhile, in Haiti, Melissa's devastating impact coming into focus. The death toll there now 23. And Hurricane Melissa is still barreling through the Caribbean, making a second landfall in Cuba early this morning as a Category 3, causing dangerous flash floods and reducing homes to rubble. It was hell all night, this man says. It will take a long time to recover.
And people need to understand also as well. It's interesting. This is happening right now, in the Caribbean, because there are U.S. warships right now in the Caribbean. Now, from what I understand, Venezuela has been helping Jamaica. But just think about the irony of this right now, that we have U.S. warships in the Caribbean right now attacking boats that they claim are from Venezuela, which they haven't proved, by the way. And these countries like Jamaica are being devastated right now by a hurricane. There's another one here. More of the residents.
Storm in history. This is history for Jamaica.
You climbed up during the hurricane onto your roof to nail it down so it wouldn't blow away.
Yes, so it wouldn't blow away. It's a pain in everybody's ass in Jamaica.
We have a problem. Even a day after landfall for Hurricane Melissa here in Jamaica, most of the world doesn't understand just how bad this hurricane was, because that part of the island where the hurricane made landfall is still inaccessible. We've been trying for over 12 hours to reach the coast, but this road is blocked. The only highway in and out, blocked by trees, blocked by power lines. The only real images that people have seen are from the eastern part of the island.
So you see one highway
where the winds weren't nearly as fierce and the rain didn't come down nearly as hard. What people have seen are fake AI videos and pictures. That's what's being shared on social media, because there is no ground truth over here. There's no electricity, there's no internet, there's no cell phone service. So people are making things up. And that's why we're here, to show you the reality. And what we've seen so far is as bad as we feared.
The worst hurricane for my born. Worst one. So it's kind of wettish.
Yeah.
Setting wet up on TV.
How high was the water inside?
Water was high like this.
Okay.
So we have to hold.
So it came rushing.
Rush in, come in, damage everything inside here.
Yeah.
See?
And did it rush outside?
Rush outside. And then come through here, so too, because we have to open the door.
Yeah.
And they come through. All the mattress here wet up.
How did you stand on your mattress?
No.
Or what did you guys do?
What we do, we take up the mattress, so man cock up.
Yeah.
Yeah, we cock up, what we are going to do? We can't do nothing. Nothing at all we can do.
I mean, you had to be just absolutely.
And some of we sit down like this.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you can survive.
So you can tell, I mean, these people don't have much.
No, they don't have much. And then on top of that, when that water starts coming into your home, now you have water damage, right? So it's just like people just can't just go like get another home. But no, they don't have much. I think sometimes like people just kind of, shrug off hurricanes. Sometimes people may think that they're not as big of a deal, but it depends on the category of the hurricane. It depends on how powerful those winds are, and how much flooding is coming in. And I got to tell you guys, like I've been through a number of hurricanes, and the category 5 ones, like now that is not one that I would mess around with at all.
But what they did have, it's gone. Everything from their clothes, the electronics, even their Bible is wet and ruined. How do you recover from nothing like this? With what resources? This is why it's so important for resources to get here as quickly as possible, help, aid from the outside.
Don't let that aid come from the Red Cross, because here's another thing. You know, some of these agencies, I talked about this before about the Red Cross, how they did people in Haiti, right? Like they said, oh, we're going to build all these homes. We got millions of dollars raised for the Red Cross, and we're going to build all these homes in Haiti. This was after the earthquake in Haiti. I don't know where all that money went, because people from Haiti will tell you build all what homes. So I don't know what the Red Cross did with all that money. But they're another one I always point my finger at, that I just don't trust that particular organization. But all of this would have to be rebuilt. But we're talking about like a lot of these people, a lot of them, they don't have anything. They don't have much.
You know that they've worked so hard and scraped together everything they can just to have a home here, to have what they had before. And then it's just taken away like that. They definitely need help. Do you have drinking water or anything like that?
No, I no drinking water.
Okay.
Because I want drum with the drinking water on top and the breed gone with it.
And so all the food, everything.
I no food, the food done. So as long as time I come, everybody food. And then says time I come, look money done.
Yeah.
You know me. Yeah, right now we not here nothing. Nothing at all we not have. Nothing. Water run through. You try to save, but you can't save over, you can't save. Because if you save,
Goat drowned.
yeah, one more there, look.
Another goat drowned. How important are these animals for you?
Oh, important.
These animals. This is how you eat, right?
Yeah, I see one more over there, so.
3. I see 3.
I see one more there, so.
4.
No, some Ghana bush.
Yeah.
So what I'm concerned about is, she mentioned the water. I'm really concerned about them not having water, because you can only go so long, right, without drinking water. So that is something that you do need. But I don't know, you guys, like I said, like this is devastating. And it's hard. Like when you don't have the infrastructure, you don't have the resources to really come in and help you. Like what do you do? It's not like they can just get on a plane and say, I'm out of here, peace. Like they can't just do that, especially when you don't have any money. So you're left there. You have to sit there and deal with it. And that's Jamaica. It's made its way to the DR, also to Haiti, but it wasn't as strong and powerful in the Dominican Republic and Haiti. By that time, it had already started to lose some of its steam. But Jamaica has been hit very hard. And I just can't help but think, I got to say it again, it just really makes me feel some kind of way, knowing that there are U.S. warships in the Caribbean right now. And it's almost as if, I don't know, like, I don't know what everybody believes or anything, but it almost is like someone is like just shining a light on the U.S. imperial powers and everything else that's happening right now. Like maybe if you believe, in God or whatever spiritually, maybe it's God is shining a light on what is happening right now. I don't know, but I just find it to be pretty interesting, because here's the thing. Now Marco Rubio has said that the U.S. is going to try to help, Jamaica and all that type of stuff. Well, I mean, you got warships right there, like right there in the Caribbean right now, shooting at people in boats that you say are coming from Venezuela that you have no proof of, hanging out at Trinidad and Tobago because the president in Trinidad basically sold them out. And I look at it this way, while you're there, you might as well do some good for once. But it almost seems like Clever said God has quite the sense of humor. I don't know. It just almost seems like someone is shining a light on this and saying like, hey, you guys are right there in the Caribbean. Now, here's the thing we need to talk about. When we see what's happening here with Jamaica, and we'll show you another one here, right? Like Jamaica is not far, as far from the United States. But when you see the destruction that has happened, that has taken place, right? And we talk about what's the risk here. I firmly believe it's only a matter of time before it's us. I firmly believe it's only a matter of time before we see this in the United States. Because, and I say this about the resources, because I continue to see our government spend money in so many different places where they should not. I continue to see them increase the defense budget. I continue to see them send money and resources to Israel. And I've been saying this for a long time. They are not taking care of people in this country. They are not looking out for people right here. Our infrastructure is falling apart. We got bridges that collapse like just because. I mean, it doesn't have to be a hurricane. Everything here is just falling apart. And so what you see happening there in Jamaica, I feel like it's only a matter of time before we're in that situation too. Because our money is not being put to good use. Like, we all pay taxes, but what are they actually going towards? Because like, if they say they're supposed to go for the roads and the bridges, then why are the bridges falling apart? But we have a defense budget that's over $850 billion. This is insane. Good point, EG. Good point. We had it here, Hurricane Katrina in New Orleans. And I'm here to tell you, there's some parts in this country that won't be ready. Just like New Orleans wasn't ready, there are other areas that won't be ready because they don't have the resources. Some of those areas are rural towns in the South. They just don't have the money. Meanwhile, our government puts all this money in defense. This is something I think we have to reckon with. We need to be prepared for. And I thought it was interesting. You guys have got to see this. This is Lieutenant Governor of Virginia, Winsome Earl Sears. Listen to what she said about Hurricane Melissa, because she's from Jamaica. Listen to what she says here.
Hello, everyone. I'm Lieutenant Governor Winsome Earl Sears, Lieutenant Governor of our great Commonwealth of Virginia. And today we know that Melissa, the hurricane Category 5, is beginning its course over the island in which I was born, Jamaica. I am a citizen now of our great United States, and I just wanted to ask for a prayer for Jamaica. I'm reminded when these natural disasters happen that sometimes we always blame God. But if we think about the book of Job in our Bible, we know that according to chapter 1 and verse 1 of Job, that says fire came from heaven, but the people thought that it came from God just because it came from heaven. And we know that that was not the case. That was not the case. And so we have a hurricane, and I'm told that this hurricane is worse than what happened with Katrina. And as you know, if the Louisianans took so long to recover from Katrina, how then can a small island with less resources like Jamaica recover? it will have to be prayer. And this.
So she believes that you can just pray the hurricane away. Like in the meantime, not providing. No, people need resources. So I just couldn't believe this. She's running for governor. So this is what she believes. Rapunzel said, how do we prepare for this? Yeah, that should be the question, right? So there needs to be more funds for emergency relief. That's where more money should go into that instead of defense. And then these cities, and especially these rural towns, they get hit with a devastating storm and they don't have the resources. They don't have. I have a friend that lives in Asheville, North Carolina. And she told me things still ain't right. So that's the problem. The money is not going where it's supposed to go. And just tell people, well, let's just sit down and pray. Hey, you can do that, but people still need resources. It just, it's crazy to me. This is where we're at now. So I sincerely hope that there is more help for people there in Jamaica. Like I said, it can happen anywhere, anytime. And some of you have experienced it here in the United States, whether it was Hurricane Katrina, whether it was the hurricane that hit Asheville, North Carolina. I mean, there's been a number of them, whether it's tornadoes, etc. And another thing you need to keep your eye open for, you see, when these kind of disasters happen and it's a horrible storm and so many homes are swept away, you have developers that come in and try to buy the land and turn it into what they want it to be. And then you have more gentrification. That happened in New Orleans after Hurricane Katrina. That's going to be happening in Asheville, North Carolina. And that, don't be surprised if it doesn't happen in Jamaica. Let's go to some of the comments here, ladies and gents. Skylar says, no money to prepare for natural disasters, but we got billions to give Israel, Argentina, Ukraine, and major corporations. That's right. That's right. Thank you, President Jafar. Hurricanes set islands back 10 years when they hit. Prayers up for Jamaica. Danny said, my childhood home was literally swept away by Hugo. I remember Hugo. That one was bad. Thank you, VS. And we have money for Israel. There you go. Thank you, Obsidian. Live near Asheville, Black Mountain area. Things are still messed up. So there you go. There's another person. Still messed up there. Yeah. So it can happen here too. So we got to pay attention. All right. We're doing pretty good on time, ladies and gents. Can you do me a favor if you haven't done so? Smash that like button. Thank you. And if you're new, don't forget to like, sub, and share, just like a Care Bear. We're going to move on to the next story. And this is one I think is not getting enough attention, but we're going to give it attention here. There is a governor race that is happening in Virginia between Winsome Searles and Abigail Spanberger. And Barack Obama has just endorsed Abigail Spanberger, and he is getting quite amount of pushback for not endorsing the Black woman. Now, let's get into all of this, but obviously he's not going to give an endorsement for the Republican candidate, but Barack Obama kind of set himself up for this. Let's get into it, ladies and gentlemen. This is Obama endorsing Abigail Spanberger.
We know Republicans will keep attacking abortion rights and the rights of women. That's why having the right governor matters. And I'm proud to endorse Abigail Spanberger.
New this morning and first to NBC News, former President Barack Obama endorsed former Congresswoman Abigail Spanberger for Virginia governor. The Democrat is running against Republican Lieutenant Governor Winsome Earl-Sears. In the video, he says Virginia's elections are among the most important elections this year. As you saw, the ad touched on abortion rights. It also hits on the economy. The Commonwealth will make history no matter who wins by electing Virginia's first woman governor.
Okay, so I want to get into why this endorsement from Obama seems to be so controversial. So obviously, Abigail is the Democrat candidate that is running for governor in New York. She has been a politician before, but some people just don't know about Abigail's history. And this connects very well with Barack Obama. There seems to be some type of movement that is happening to get people that have worked for the CIA into electoral politics. And I don't mean someone who worked at the CIA and they were just a paper pusher. Let's say they were an admin assistant or something like that, or security. No, I'm talking about someone who was an actual spy. Abigail Spanberger was a CIA spy, not just in the United States, but around the freaking globe. Meet former CIA spy Abigail Spanberger, who got her resume declassified to run for Congress. So this is back when she ran for Congress. You see how they hide stuff? Listen, that's her, Abigail Spanberger. Let's continue on, ladies and gents. As a former spy for the CIA, her life has been anything but typical. The Virginia mother of 3 told Good Morning America during a sit-down interview in her kitchen this summer that she always had a desire to serve her country, an interest in government, and a love of languages. She was studying overseas September 11th, 2001, and the terrorist attacks marked a turning point in her life. Spanberger decided the time to serve her country was then, no more waiting. Let's go ahead and get into a little bit more here. She applied for a job with the CIA and had a confidential offer by 2002. That was fast. The next 4 years, she was evaluated. I loved the idea of understanding people, places, concepts, concerns, and large international questions, and being the one to go out and get the answers. Yes, she said she had disguises and a cover story. For the majority of her time with the agency, her own mother did not know what she did for a living. People worry because people watch Hollywood movies. People don't know how extensive our training is. Spanberger's career took her around the globe. Pressed on details, she gives few. She had to work with the CIA to get her service record declassified to run for Congress. And now on the trail sticks to carefully scripted lines approved by the agency when talking about her work. I talk in broad brush terms about what it is that I did because that's all I'm permitted to do. There are at times when I say I wish I could talk about something in a little bit more detail, but that's never a path that I'm going down. I take my commitment to protecting the people who are still doing the job that I once did and the foreign nationals who are risking their lives as well to provide information to the U.S. government very seriously. So this is back when she was running for Congress. So, sometimes we say so-and-so is CIA, and we may mean, CIA rhetoric or whatever, or CIA talking points. But no, in Abigail's case, we mean an actual CIA spy. She knows many languages. She traveled across the globe spying on people. And there seems to be this pipeline that has been created now where people who were in the CIA are getting into politics. This is important for a couple of reasons. Number one, we have seen an increase of this idea of the surveillance state, whether it's coming from Barack Obama, which it has, whether it's coming from Peter Thiel, Elon Musk, etc. We have seen an increase in that. How do you think Abigail Spanberger would vote? She becomes governor of Virginia. How do you think she would vote to support those types of policies? And when I say there's a whole line of them, there's a whole line of them. I mean, check it out. This is clear and day. So if you look at the Lawfare podcast, Abigail Spanberger and Alyssa Slotkin from the CIA to Congress. So check it out. Look, there's a whole lineup. Jen Potja, David Priest, there's Abigail, there's Alyssa Slotkin. So we all knew Alyssa was also CIA. So you see this push that's happening where they're taking CIA agents and stuff and they're putting them in politics. Abigail Spanberger doesn't get as much attention as Alyssa Slotkin does. So I knew I had to cover the story because people need to see this. Now, obviously, Barack Obama is going to endorse a Democrat. In this particular situation, he doesn't have to endorse anybody. He could just retire and just shut the fuck up, like for once. But this is an actual CIA spy that is running for governor of Virginia. If you live in Virginia, I mean, because what I'm looking at, your choices are Abigail or Winsome Searles, who just told you to pray the hurricane away. These are the choices that you're looking at right now. Now, why does this matter when we make that connection with Barack Obama? If you listen to what Obama is saying here, even when it comes to their surveillance state, listen to this. Barack Obama says the quiet part out loud. It's time to experiment with new forms of journalism with government regulatory constraints. You see, this is what they want to do. Listen to this.
Part of what we're going to have to do is to start experimenting with new forms of journalism and how do we use social media in ways that reaffirm facts, separate facts from opinion. We want diversity of opinion. We don't want diversity of facts. That, I think, is one of the big tasks of social media. By the way, it will require some government, I believe, some government regulatory constraints around some of these business models in a way that's consistent with the First Amendment, but that also says, look, there is a difference between these platforms letting all voices be heard versus a business model that elevates the most hateful voices or the most polarizing voices or the most dangerous in the sense of inciting violence voices. And that I think is going to be a big challenge for all of us that we're going to
have to undertake. Barack Obama here is championing for government regulation of journalism. Remember, Barack Obama supported the Patriot Act. So did Hillary Clinton, by the way. Now you have a Trump administration aligned with Peter Thiel, who supports increasing surveillance. They support the digital ID. You have Abigail Spanberger, a freaking spy, who's running for governor of Virginia. These things align because what you see across the board is they want to watch us. They want to control us, and they want to tell us what the facts are. That's what he means. What he's basically giving a dig there at the influencers, independent media. That's what he's doing. He's basically giving a dig at that. He is also facing criticism about this endorsement because people are just kind of throwing his words back in his face. Like, I'm not trying to be mean or nothing, but here's the thing, man. People are throwing his words back in his face because he said you should support a Black woman. So now people are saying, of course, conservatives are doing that. They are saying, why aren't you supporting the Black woman in that race? Now, obviously, he's not going to support a Republican. He's going to support his party, but he opened the door to that. And I think this is something that some Democrats don't want to face. Winsome Earl Sears, she came in and she said, I remember when Barack Obama told Black men to support candidates who grew up like us. So what changed Barack? So you see, people are, remember this?
So if you don't mind, just for a second, I'm going to speak to y'all directly and say that when you have a choice that is this clear, when on the one hand you have somebody who grew up like you, knows you, went to college with you, understands the struggles and pain and joy that comes from those experiences, who's had to work harder and do more and overcome and achieves the second highest office in the land and is putting forward concrete proposals to directly address the things that are vital in our neighborhoods and our communities.
So we all remember that. That's when he was scolding black men about not coming out to support Kamala. We all remember that conversation. Again, that did not go too well for Barack Obama. And so now conservatives are using this at their disposal to push back on him and say, why aren't you supporting the black woman in the race in Virginia? Why are you supporting Abigail Spanberger instead? And you're going to see one of those here. And then I am going to debunk something here about these statements that have been going around about the NAACP, which are not true, connected to this at all as well.
Having roots in Virginia, I'm going to try to be serious for a minute. If you all haven't heard by now, the NAACP has endorsed Abigail Spanberger to run against Winsome Earl Sears for governor of Virginia. Nothing screams progress for people of color like watching the same crowd that preaches representation matters suddenly go full Stevie Wonder and Ray Charles when the representation has an R next to her name. Funny how that shit works, huh? Winsome Earl Sears, black, female, immigrant, Marine, success story. But nah, it doesn't fit the approved narrative. Apparently she's the wrong kind of black, because we all know being a strong, independent, educated, conservative woman means you've been brainwashed by the patriarchy, right? And the same people who quote Malcolm X like it's scripture conveniently ignore the part where he said that there's nothing more dangerous to a black man than a white liberal. But they're out here acting like Spanberger is the second coming of MLK just because she checks the right political box.
And honestly, and this is what I got to say about that. This is why you don't use you have to vote for this person because they are black, right? Barack Obama could have said, you have to vote for Kamala Harris because look at these policies that she laid out. This is going to be best for you. But when you throw up the whole, you got to do it because it's a black woman or because it's a black person, well, then people are going to throw that back in your face the next time around. It is a black candidate, but they just don't happen to be a part of your party. Or maybe they are a part of the party, but they're not approved by the establishment, or they're not approved by, Chuck Schumer or Hakeem Jeffries, et cetera, right? So Obama walked right into that trap. Now, like I said, obviously he's not going to endorse the Republican candidate, but he kind of let that door right open, man. Like, I don't know. You did that because you didn't want to focus on policy. You wanted to focus on the color of her skin instead. Now, to go along with all of this, because this is a crazy story, I'm telling you, we need to talk about Abigail. The NAACP was also getting pushback because they hosted an event for Abigail Spanberger. And she shared it on X. It was an honor to join so many incredible leaders and advocates tonight at the Virginia NAACP's 90th annual convention. And there she is there. There she is, smiling and taking pictures, spying all around. There she is there as well. And then here is a larger picture of her speaking to the entire audience. Now, here's the problem. Many saw this and assumed that the NAACP also endorsed Abigail Spanberger. And there is a problem with that. They can't endorse a political candidate. I believe the NAACP, last time I checked, is a 501c3. So they can't give a political endorsement. Legally, they can't. But there are a number of accounts, because this was posted on social media, there were a number of accounts that said, yeah, she was endorsed by the NAACP. In fact, I want to show you, here was one here that was shared by Matt Vespa. I don't know what to say. The NAACP really must hate Black women, right? So you can't make this up. The NAACP endorsed a white candidate. This was like circulating around on social media. This is false. The NAACP did not endorse her. They did host an event with her, but they issued a response to clear this up. The NAACP, let's go here. The NAACP, I don't know why their website does this, sorry. The NAACP refutes false claims of Virginia government endorsement. So they issued this statement on the 28th, and they said that the NAACP Virginia State Conference has not endorsed any candidate for governor, period. That's coming from Reverend Cozy Bailey, Virginia State Conference president. We remain focused on the issues that matter most to our community: protecting voting rights, expanding accessible to affordable health care, improving economic opportunity, and ensuring that every eligible voter is able to cast a ballot freely and fairly. And it goes on to say up here, any claim that the association or the NAACP Virginia State Conference has endorsed a candidate for governor is categorically false. The NAACP supports policies, not politicians. We do not endorse candidates. Yeah, because they can't, right? So what I will say, though, about the NAACP is that you hosted an event with a spy. And we're talking about, I think my camera got twisted. We're talking about the CIA, who has spied on some of the revolutionary Black leaders. It's the same organization. So I just don't understand this. And what I think needs to happen with the NAACP is I don't think they should be politically attached at all. No, they can't endorse candidates. I don't think they should host them either. I don't think they should host political candidates. I feel like the NAACP got away from its original mission. I really do. I feel like it's very corporate now. It's kind of bougie, you know. So that's how you get into this mess. But I just wonder, again, I wonder if MLK, if Malcolm X, if Fred Hampton, if they were still alive, how would they feel to see the NAACP for what it is today? How would they feel to see that they're sitting up there hosting a spy? So something has happened here, because you can't have that type of revolutionary spirit and host the spies. The same intelligence agency that came after Black activists, that came after Black radicals, you are hosting CIA spies. So I wanted people to know about this, because, you know, things definitely do have to change. It's absolutely insane what has happened, I think, to these organizations like the NAACP and Urban League, but also on top of this, just because you like Barack Obama, or if you like Barack Obama and he endorses someone, that doesn't mean that this is a good person. You need to check and see who this person really is. And so she's one of them. Yes, another CIA in politics. And these are the same people who want to push for spying and all those types of things. Now, with the candidate, Winston Seal, she ain't no better either. Because for all the people saying, well, she's a Black woman, vote for her, support her, and she also very much against reparations. She's come out against it. She's no better. What you have are two establishment horrible candidates for the working class. That's what you have. Abigail and Winston. And people ask me, well, what was Barack Obama supposed to do? Barack Obama was supposed to retire as many years ago, retire and shut the fuck up. That's what Barack Obama should do. I think people are tired of him. And oftentimes it seems like his endorsements actually hurt people's chances. I don't know. So for all the people that are cheering it on, I do think it's important that you know who these people are. I think it's important that you know who Abigail Spanberger is. So if you see some of these laws, it looks like she has a good chance to win. So you see some of these laws that are enacted in Virginia, now you know who Abigail is. Let's go to some of the comments here, ladies and gents. Blah, blah, blah. Can't talk tonight. Thank you for the super chat. Kinman says, I hate Care Bears. I'm so sorry, Kinman. What did Care Bear do to you? I am so sorry. Thank you. What Democracy said, OMG, if you want to serve your country, volunteer for the less fortunate or do mutual aid. Exactly. She sounds like Kamala Harris serving as DA of San Francisco. There you go. She said, pray the hurricane away. Thank you, Kenman. Spam burgers are disgusting. Thank you, Texas Grown. Spit the fire, Sabby. She's cooking, folks. Thank you, Miss Ritchie. As a Virginian, thank you so much for calling out Spanberger's spook pass. I feel like I'm going crazy because so few other Virginians even know this. Yeah, I figured. And she was pretty public about it when she was running, after her congressional race. But a lot of people just don't know. They don't know about that. Let's go to the next story here, ladies and gentlemen. This is a good news story. So far, there's more work I think that needs to be done. But this is a good news story. And we're going to talk about what is the risk, right? Sonya Massey was murdered by a police officer. Covered the story at the time that it happened. While there have been cases before where we needed to see more video footage, or maybe there were things that were just a little unclear in the film, this was one of those videos where that was not the case. I saw this video from beginning to end, from the moment the police officers arrived at her home. And this is one of the ones where you literally can't just sit here and be like, well, I don't know about this one, you guys. No, we watched it here together as an audience, and that was murder. Some justice has been found. The officer who murdered Sonya Massey, Officer Sean Grayson, has been found guilty of murder. Let's go ahead and get into this story, ladies and gents. I think a lot of us remember that tragic turn for Sonya Massey.
We have breaking news, a verdict in the murder trial of former Illinois Sheriff's Deputy Sean Grayson.
After 2 days of deliberation, the jury has found Grayson guilty of second-degree murder. Grayson, who is white, was accused of killing 36-year-old black woman Sonya Massey, who called 911 for help. That shooting was captured on body camera footage. We're not going to show all of it because it is graphic, but video shows Grayson shooting and killing Massey in her kitchen last year after she picked up a pot of boiling water. Her family said she struggled with mental health issues.
NBC News.
And we'll go back here to this image where he is at her front door. She called the police. We'll get into a little bit later, but she called the police because she thought there was someone outside of her house trying to break into her home. So that's why she called them. And little did she know that that would be the last phone call that she would make. Little did she know that that would be the end for her.
Not going to show all of it because it is graphic, but video shows Grayson shooting and killing Massey in her kitchen last year after she picked up a pot of boiling water. Her family said she struggled with mental health issues.
NBC News correspondent Maggie Vespa is outside the courthouse in Peoria, Illinois, and NBC News legal analyst Danny Savalos with us here in studio. Maggie, let me get right to you. Tell us more about the verdict and what happened inside that courtroom.
Yeah, Kate Sinclair, after more than 10 hours of deliberations, jurors inside that courtroom just coming to that conclusion that Sean Grayson is, as you said, guilty of second-degree murder, which carries a potential sentence of 4 to 20 years in prison. And basically what this means is that, according to our legal analyst, and I'm sure Danny can expand on this, the defense's strategy seemingly worked to give the jury the option of a lesser charge. Again, remembering that he was initially charged with first-degree murder, which in Illinois carries a maximum potential penalty of life in prison. Now, again, just that kind of basic definition here is that what this means is the jury determined that Sean Grayson intentionally killed Sonya Massey, believing potentially that his life or his safety was at risk, but that belief was actually unreasonable. And this is after watching the body camera video in full in court in front of Sonya Massey's family, asking to watch that body camera video again last night during deliberations, asking the judge for clarification on some of the jury instructions, especially tied to the concept of use of force. So this is kind of a middle ground between, I should say it's absolutely a middle ground between what prosecutors originally sought against Grayson, again, that first-degree murder charge, and then what the defense was ultimately hoping for, which was an acquittal. Now we have this conviction of second-degree murder. Again, also something of a middle ground for these protesters down the street. As the verdict was being announced, my producer ran down there, and we heard from people who are now standing in front of the courthouse, beating their drum and yelling through a bullhorn, saying that they're glad there's a conviction of some sort. They're glad, they hope there will be prison time. He hasn't been sentenced yet, but they really wanted, in the name of Sonya Massey, that first-degree murder conviction. So again, this is in the last 10 minutes or so. I'm bringing you this breaking news here first on News Now Daily, guys.
First degree can be really difficult because you have to prove that, if I understand correctly, you would have to prove that he went there with the intent to kill Sonya Massey, right? So that one can be really hard to prove. In this particular case, like I said, she called the police. They came and they walked around her house and they said they didn't see anybody outside. But the reality is, when I get into the backstory of this officer, I think you guys are going to understand, at least for me, why I feel as though he should have never been given a badge and a gun to begin with in the first place. Let me pull up that really quick. And before we get to that, actually, let me let the video finish and then I'll pull it back up.
Maggie, thanks so much. Danny, let's bring you in. Break down the second-degree murder verdict. What should we make of it? As Maggie outlined, the defense really pushing for the jury to consider it, but also what kind of sentence could it carry?
Maggie described it perfectly. What the jury had to do with first and second degree murder in Illinois is a little not traditional compared to the way we think of murder in other states. They had to first find all the elements of first degree murder. And by the way, if they didn't find all the elements of first degree murder, they also could not find him guilty of second degree murder. Very interesting, because we often think of second degree murder as kind of a lesser included offense, that if it's not as serious as first degree, you can just go to second degree. Not so in Illinois. You have to find all the elements of first degree murder, and then you go to second degree murder and ask the question, as Maggie pointed out, was there a belief that deadly force was necessary? And in addition, was that belief unreasonable? Second degree murder in this case is defined as an unreasonable belief that you needed to use deadly force. You actually believed your life was threatened, but it was unreasonable. And that's what I think the defense was hoping for. That signals to me that they believed they were not going to get a straight across the board acquittal.
Yeah, it's difficult, and it depends on which state that you're in, and it varies, and all of these other things. But I think that there's more that you need to know about Sean Grayson. Before that night even happened, I don't think that Sean Grayson should have ever been a police officer ever. And I'm going to show you why. So let me grab this here to share with you. When these cases happen, I always like to look into the past to see, like, what, was there something there? Was there behavior there that should have been a red flag? And in the case of Sean Grayson, there definitely was. If we look at his history here just a little bit, let's go through his past a little bit here. So Grayson, prior to his role as a police officer. Let me just pull this down here. The Army. This is what I want to get into. This is a big red flag to me. I told you guys, like, I had, military family, and I'm going to tell you something about this one. Sean Grayson, the Army discharged him after a serious offense personnel file says. Grayson had been discharged from the U.S. Army in 2016 due to misconduct, a serious offense, according to the Department of Defense document included in Grayson's personal file during his time at the Kincaid Police Department in Illinois. The personnel file was obtained by CNN affiliate KSHB. The document says that Grayson was separated from the Army under a general discharge after he served as a private first class at Fort Riley in Kansas. The file did not detail the alleged misconduct. So, let me talk about this for just a second. So, when you are discharged from the military, there are different types of discharge, right? You can have an honorable discharge. Some people are honorably discharged from the military because they were injured, like maybe they were injured at war, or for whatever reason they were injured and they physically cannot continue to serve. They could get what's called an honorable discharge. Then there's just discharge, which means you messed up. You did something that the military could not get past, and they let you go. The fact that his file did not provide the details of why he was discharged is a big red flag to me. There's something there that was trying to be covered. You know what I mean? So that in itself was alarming to me. He should have never been given there's more, but he should have never been given a badge and a gun. CNN asked the Army for more details. In response, Army spokesperson Bryce Dubé wrote, Sean P. Grayson was a 91B wheeled vehicle mechanic in the regular Army from May 2014 to February 2016. He had no deployments and left the Army in the rank of a private first class. So he was low ranking. Okay, he wasn't there long. Let's get to the next part here. Grayson pleaded guilty to 2 DUIs before working in law enforcement. This is another one that to me is a big red flag. The court records show that Grayson was charged with 2 DUI misdemeanor offenses in Illinois, one in 2015 and one in 2016. The first incident occurred in August 2015 when his vehicle was impounded after he was charged with driving under the influence. Here's the thing, guys. He pled guilty and he paid more than $1,320 in fines, according to court records. In July 2016, Grayson was charged with another DUI. He pled guilty and paid more than $2,400 in fines, court records show. He acknowledged his DUI charges when he applied to be an officer at Auburn Police Department in Illinois. That was in 2021. He worked there from 2021 to 2022, and CNN reviewed his records there, did not reveal any major problems or disciplinary issues. But let's back up. You have someone here who had 2 DUIs. They were discharged from the military, not honorably, and they were allowed to become a police officer. Here's another thing that was in his past. He needed to take high stress decision-making classes. This was recommended by one agency. Grayson had worked at 6 Illinois law enforcement agencies since 2021. 6. He started working part-time with the Pawnee Police in August 2020. Then started working full-time with the Auburn Police. And finally, the Sangamon County Sheriff's Office in May of 2023. When they were looking at his records here, it says that when he was with the Kincaid Police Force for only 3 months before he was let go because he refused to live within a 10-mile radius. These are just some of the things. Grayson's supervisor terminated the pursuit. Grayson continued at a high-speed rate of over 110 miles per hour prior to striking a deer. This type of behavior Again, but he was allowed to continue on. Okay. So again, there were a number of incidents that would have alarmed people to say, no, 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 do not give this guy a badge and a gun. And like I said, the one that really sticks out, the military discharge, and why there are no details as to why he was discharged, that is very concerning here. So for people who have not seen it, and it was very clear to me, some of the people commenting online really did not see this video, like Jake Shields, who was getting ratioed and grilled by some of his own supporters. He said, if it was a black cop who shot a white woman, do you think a jury full of black men would have acquitted him? Notice how he brought race into it. So instead of just watching the video and seeing it for himself. So, of course, racist Jake Shields. These are his own supporters replying to his remarks. In all fairness, after seeing the clip, I didn't even see her acting in a threatening manner. Absolutely no reason for deadly force. These are his supporters. Here's another one. I hate to say it, but the jury got it right on this one. You're way off on this one, brother. These are his supporters. So it was very obvious that he didn't actually watch the video. He was just very quick to jump in and let's play the black-white card. Did not even see the video. So do you see how people are so quick to jump to conclusions before watching things? So we'll show you as much as we can of it on here. Body cam video reveals chaotic scene of deputy, and we're not going to show the actual shooting. Let's make sure I put this up here.
What do you want help with?
I heard somebody outside.
Yeah, we checked your house, we checked your backyard. I walked all the way through all these backyards. We checked your front yard.
But you know what I want? I want justice for my baby.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
You killed the wrong black woman this time.
Amen. Amen.
What is your last name? Shouldn't have to think about your last name. You're not in trouble. I just need to text.
Massey.
Huh?
Massey.
Yeah. You have an ID? That'd make things so much easier. I just need to get just driver's license will do.
But I want to tell y'all.
One of the things I noticed from that video that was very obvious to me, I have to bring this back so I can turn the volume up for you guys. 1 second.
Check your front yard.
But you know what I want? I want justice for my baby.
Yeah.
What I noticed from the video, and I watched the full video, he was already irritated. He was already irritated in the beginning. If you watch the full video from when they come to her house, when she called them, he was already agitated. And then you will also see that the officer who was with him in the courtroom, his partner said he was afraid of Sean. He wasn't afraid of the woman. He was afraid of Sean. What does that tell you? Let's continue here.
Yes, sir.
You killed the wrong black woman this time.
Amen. Amen.
What is your last name? Shouldn't have to think about your last name. You're not in trouble. I just need to text.
Massey.
Huh?
Massey.
Yeah. You have an ID? That'd make things so much easier. I just need to get just driver's license will do.
But I want to tell y'all, the sheriff is here is an embarrassment. Because this man should have never had a badge. He should have never had a gun. He should have never been given the opportunity to kill my child.
I don't know where my ID is.
You can stand that stack right there, maybe.
1 second.
Check on her.
Let me get this.
No, we don't need a fire while we're here.
Right.
Okay, we don't need a fire while we're here. So the pot of water was already boiling on the stove. So she went over to turn off the pot of water on the stove. But as you can tell, the officer was already agitated.
Okay. Let me see. Okay. Where you going?
Huh?
Where you going?
Away from your hot steaming water.
Away from my hot steaming water?
Yeah.
Oh, I rebuke you in the name of Jesus.
I
rebuke you in the name of
So now she is at the sink to pour the water out. And he said, where are you going? You got a pot full of hot water, right? Notice his hand is where his hand is already placed. Okay. So here's the other thing. And this is why a lot of times Black people, this is why a lot of us don't call the police. This is why a lot of times we handle things on our own, or we'll call a friend or say, hey, this happened. This is why. Because once they come inside your house, then they start looking at some of everything else. And this situation in particular, I felt like when I watched that full-length video, it never had to get to this point. She said to him, she said, I rebuke you in the name of Jesus. Now, many people, when they saw her say that, they said, it's almost as if she saw that he was a demon. I don't know, but that is not an uncommon phrase. I've heard that before. Any of us, those of us that have gone to the Black church, grew up in the Black church, we have heard that before. But that seemed to bother him so much to the point where he felt like he had to put his hand on his gun. Here's another thing you need to think about. His partner, who was the officer with him, whose body cam is being used, Sean turned his off, whose body cam is being used, he didn't feel his life was threatened. He said so in court. So he went on to say here, and we're not going to show the actual shooting.
In the name of Jesus. I rebuke you in the name of Jesus.
better not. I swear to God, I'll shoot you right in your face.
Okay.
So do you see what happened? She said, I rebuke you in the name of Jesus. He said, you better effing not. He said that he would shoot her in her face. Look how far away she is from him. She has no weapon. He came in there agitated and was ready to go off. And what people should really look into, because I want to know why he was discharged from the military, because that does follow you. Kind of hard to get away from a military discharge. So why are the details about that sealed? What did he do? And that was the end of her life. Like I said, we're not going to show the actual shooting, of course. She should be alive today. So now words get you killed. And there were some people online and they were saying, well, he thought that she was going to do or thought that she may have. So now we're getting into Minority Report, the movie Minority Report, where you already see that someone, you say, I think that you're going to do this, so I'm going to go ahead and do what I need to do. Do people not realize how dangerous this is? And people are just so blinded. People have been so blinded. So blinded by things. And they just don't even want to see it is for what it is. For the people who always want to come and defend the cops and all this stuff, they're so quick to say, well, he felt threatened for his life. Okay, how come his partner didn't feel threatened? He said so in the courtroom. He wasn't afraid of her. He was afraid of him. So what does that tell you about Sean? Discharged from the military, 2 DUIs. He should have never been given a badge and a gun in the first damn place. He should have not been a law enforcement officer. Sonya Massey would still be alive today. And people say, what's the risk? It's not just Sean. It's not just Sean Grayson. There are many Sean Graysons out there. And had it not been for the body camera, I don't think that Sean Grayson is found guilty. Had it not been for his buddy's body camera, I don't think that Sean Grayson would have been found guilty. And when he shot her, he didn't shoot her once. He shot her in her head. Some of this behavior that you are seeing from the police officers here in the United States, if it looks familiar, you know where it comes from. You have these same officers, these police departments trained by the IDF in Israel. The same way you see that IDF soldier get up there on that roof and shoot that child and shoot that dog and say, the dog was Hamas. The child was Hamas. The camera was Hamas. The same way you see them get there and they shoot those people in Gaza point blank and say, well, I thought they were going to do this. Where do you think it comes from? The horror and the terror that is wreaked abroad happens right here in this country as well. They're connected. So Sonya Massey should be alive today. And we talk about what's at risk. I told people before, don't call the cops. I don't call the police. No. You don't know what you're going to get nowadays. And they looking for reason to come after anybody, especially they looking for reason to come after people who speak out against Israel. It's just a shame what happened. It's just very much a shame. And she's dead because of it. Very sad. Very sad. Let's go to some of the comments here, ladies and gentlemen, and then we'll get to our final story. Thank you, Connie. Teal, Shmuley, and Booker were friends in college. I bet they were. Yusuf said, soon as she rebuked him, he turned into a straight demon. Thank you, Cloudness. The fix is in already. A lesser charge lets me know. Thank you, Covert Rabbit. Oakland's unofficial theme song is 911 is a joke. Thank you, William. Back the blue until it happens to you. Jail for life. Thank you for this one as well. Happens a lot. He knew she was no threat. Tyrant. And thank you for this one. Trump wants these killers to have full immunity. There you go. There you go. So he can sick them after everybody else for what comes next. We'll get into that a little bit deeper on Sunday when I tell you about what they really plan, what they're trying to do. We're going to get to the final story here, ladies and gents. And this one is about Kash Patel and Charlie Kirk. This is crazy. You know, when we talk about corruption, we're calling out corruption on both sides. It doesn't matter if it's in the Democratic Party or the Republican Party. We're calling out the corruption. And since the shooting of Charlie Kirk, I think we can all agree there has been a lot of corruption on full display. And the latest piece that has been announced is that apparently Kash Patel seems to be freaked out that there seems to be a need to look into this further. A need to look and see if there was any type of foreign intelligence that corroborated with Tyler Robinson. Now, I still don't think Tyler Robinson killed Charlie Kirk. I don't have any evidence that shows that he did. And while people are pushing all this information in your face and they're telling you this is the person who did it, I haven't seen any evidence that shows Tyler Robinson with that gun in his hand. I haven't seen any evidence that can prove to me without the shadow of a doubt that Tyler Robinson is the one who killed Charlie Kirk. And Kash Patel has been acting very strange. If you're wondering why I think he's hiding what he's hiding, again, let's just go back to what he said before he got that position.
We will shut off the machinery that feeds money into Iran. We will no longer have 100 hostages still in captivity, Israeli and American and otherwise, by Hamas and Iran's Hezbollah mercenary forces. We need America to wake up and prioritize Israel and bring home Israelis and make sure we stand by our number one ally in Israel.
Just a reminder what Kash Patel said. What did he say to you again about Israel?
Forces. We need America to wake up and prioritize Israel and bring home Israelis and make sure we stand by our number one ally in Israel. We will.
Yeah. He said, we need America to prioritize Israel. I mean, it was all out in the open. It was all out in the open, ladies and gents, right? Now hold on to that, because this new report shows some pretty damning information. Officials' access to FBI files in Charlie Kirk case drew pushback. Let's get into Joe Kent and what he is trying to do here, and what Kash Patel seems to be walking away from or freaking out about. The head of the National Counterterrorism Center examined FBI files in the last several weeks to investigate whether the man charged with assassinating Charlie Kirk had support from someone else, a foreign power, or another entity. That is according to people who are familiar with the matter. It was Joe Kent who inquired this. He's the director of Counterterrorism Center, and apparently he alarmed Kash Patel by doing this. It goes on to say here, he alarmed Kash Patel, the director of the FBI. Mr. Patel and other senior officials believed Mr. Kent was overstepping, treading on FBI responsibilities, and potentially interfering with the investigation and the prosecution of the suspect, Tyler Robinson. So let's just pause here for just a second. Once again, I'm going to ask this question. Why is the FBI involved in this case? We went over the reasons why an FBI would be involved in a case. And the closest we could get to out of those reasons is it's considered to be a hate crime, which is really interesting. Like I said, in the very beginning, they came out with this narrative that it was this guy who's trans or dating someone that's trans who did this. And they put that narrative out there before Tyler Robinson was even classified as a suspect. Before Tyler Robinson was even arrested, they had already told you who did what before they even knew who the person was, because they had to, in my opinion, they had to make that statement. They had to put that out there so that they could have the excuse for the FBI to get involved. Why isn't the local police in Utah handling this case? Why did the FBI come all the way in? Charlie Kirk wasn't a politician. He doesn't meet any of the other requirements. So there's that. Now we see Joe Kent, who is the director of counterterrorism. He wanted to look into this a little bit deeper to see, hey, maybe there is foreign intelligence here that was involved in this with Tyler Robinson. So he's not saying that Tyler Robinson is innocent. He's just looking to see if there was help. That is freaking Kash Patel out. If there's nothing to be seen there, then Kash Patel shouldn't have a problem. If this isn't the case and no foreign intelligence, nothing there was involved, then Kash Patel should have no problem with Joe Kent accessing this information. You only freak out if you have something to hide. Now it goes on here. Supporters of Mr. Kent, they say that he was doing his job, running down leads and making sure no foreign or domestic groups were linked to Mr. Kirk's death. Then it goes into Tyler Robinson, which I'm sure we all know the story, right? The Senate confirmed Mr. Kent as director of Counterterrorism Center in July. He is one of the closest advisors to Tulsi Gabbard, the director of national intelligence, and shares her focus on traditional terrorism groups as well as drug cartels, which he argues are a grave threat to the United States. This brings up the other question. Where is Tulsi Gabbard? Have you guys heard Tulsi Gabbard say anything about this shooting other than on social media? Where has Tulsi Gabbard been? She is the director here of national intelligence. Why isn't Tulsi Gabbard involved in this at all? If the FBI is investigating this case, where the hell is Tulsi Gabbard? And Joe Kent is one of her advisors. And I'm not even trying to just put things out there. I just want people to think about something for a minute. The FBI is involved, but the DNI is not. Tulsi Gabbard is nowhere to be found. Very quiet. Let's go on to more here. Kash Patel was troubled that Mr. Kent had gone through FBI material related to the case. Mr. Kent's efforts were a topic at the White House meeting that included Kash Patel, Mr. Kent, and his direct superior, Ms. Gabbard. Top Justice Department officials, Vice President J.D. Vance, and the White House Chief of Staff, Susie Wiles, were also there, according to several people who spoke to the New York Times. So Tulsi Gabbard was at this meeting, but I have not seen Tulsi Gabbard speak publicly in quite a bit. Why is Tulsi Gabbard so silent with the press about this? The FBI and the Justice Department generally keep tight control over evidence in criminal cases, particularly when they are preparing for a trial in which the government documents may have to be turned over to the defense and could be used to poke holes in a prosecution's case. While Mr. Robinson is currently facing only state charges, some administration officials were concerned that Mr. Kent's efforts could provide fodder to defense lawyers who could use notion that more than one person involved in Mr. Kirk's shooting could raise reasonable doubt in the minds of jurors. But again, if there's nothing there that leads to that, why are they concerned? I still have not seen any evidence that proves that Tyler Robinson did this. Have you seen video footage of Tyler Robinson with the gun in his hand? Because I haven't. I saw him climbing off the roof. I don't see the gun in his hand. People said he put it in the book bag. According to the experts, you can't even disassemble that rifle like that and put it in the book bag. And the amount of time it would take to disassemble it and put it in the book bag and then put it back together again and put it in the woods. And how do we even know that that was the weapon that was used? The weapon that was found in the woods, how do we know that was the weapon that was used? Because the FBI told you so? The same FBI that lied to you about the killings of other people? And then there is something else. We're going to get into this here as well. Just making sure I'm starting at the right part. Yeah. I didn't know about this part. Someone sent me this. Candace Owens apparently is asking questions about Donald Trump with all of this. Why Donald Trump just kind of, they had like the memorial for Charlie Kirk and now he's just kind of not talking about it anymore. Does anybody find this weird? Let's go ahead and get into this here.
Never going to get the full story from officials, right? Not from officials. I can't explain it. I felt that way. And then when Trump rushed to tweet out that, or Truth Social out that photo, an AI photo of him and Charlie with the Star of David in the background.
I didn't know about this photo, but it definitely looks like it's AI. What's up with that? Why is the Israeli flag there? Interesting.
I just knew. I knew the investigation into who murdered Charlie Kirk was officially over, right? The officials wanted nothing to do with it because there was nobody more psychotically insistent that people stop asking questions about Charlie's death immediately. I mean, early hours, right? more than the people that are dedicated to the Israel lobby, right? These individuals, if you go back, people that are pro-Israel for whatever reason, were like, do not look any further into this death. In fact, I'll challenge you, do me a favor. Find me just one real life pro-Israel individual who is expressing that they don't believe that Charlie Kirk was killed by Tyler Robinson.
Can we add Tulsi Gabbard to this list as well? Like I'm saying, you guys, has anybody noticed that Tulsi Gabbard seems to be absent in all of this? Where is Tulsi Gabbard? She's pro-Israel too. But she's the director of national intelligence. Wouldn't she look into this further? Just something to think about.
The evidence is overwhelming that Tyler Robinson didn't act alone, that Tyler Robinson didn't fire the shot, that Tyler Robinson didn't use a 30-06. Find me just one person with a platform who's pro-Israel and says, I want this investigation into his death to continue. It's a bit weird, right? It's a bit weird. Dogs, very silent right now. Very, very silent. And there's like a stake on the ground. They're not moving. It's very weird. They do, all of them, however, I will say, want him to be honored, right? Mostly by your money. They want you to give to Turning Point USA. That's the best way, by the way, that you can honor him. Open up your pocketbooks. They don't have enough money there, right? Clearing like $100 million a year. They don't have enough. Open up your pockets, keep his show going, and don't ask questions is obviously the clearest way that we can honor Charlie Kirk. They want him lionized, and they did try to lionize him immediately as the most Judeo-Christian goy ever, right? He was basic. Why not just put him in a yarmulke in some of these AI photos? That would make more sense. The direction, I mean, so instant. It's like just like trying to establish the legacy, right? And keeping with that, we want this to be honorific, not actually trying to solve what happened here. For Charlie's birthday, President Trump signed into law or established rather a holiday. And
this was all smoke and mirrors, right? Like I told you guys before, this let's create the holiday and all this kind of stuff. Because we have to talk about distractions, right? If they create a holiday, if they're like, let's put Charlie Kirk's face on a coin. I've heard all this stuff, like all this crazy stuff, right? Then maybe you may stop asking if they're telling us the truth about who killed him. Distraction. If they keep pumping out all this stuff in front of you, like, oh, look, we're giving him a holiday. We're putting his face on a coin. We're going to make a statue about him, yada, yada. Then if you're seeing all that and focusing on that, then maybe you don't have time to sit back and question, did that young man actually kill Charlie Kirk? When we go to the next part here, the part about Donald Trump, I thought was pretty interesting as well. This part.
Like I said, it's pretty obvious. They want us to just look at everything and go, case closed. Don't you see? We're all united. We're standing up here. We're giving him a holiday. We're signing that. And we've got all these photographers here, Turning Point's chief fundraiser lady here, and she's crying. So obviously she loved Charlie. Kash Patel was there. Of all the people, unbelievable to me. They're here. Kash Patel's here. So you can see we're all united. You can totally trust the FBI science now. We're ruling out corruption. That's why we don't know what Jeffrey Epstein files are talking about. Because look, all we had to do was win against Democrats and corruption would be over. Are we still talking about Jeffrey Epstein? I'm sorry.
I hope that this is making people see that corruption happens on both sides, right? Like, that's what I hope people get from this. I sincerely hope for those of you who watch the show that you get that, like, corruption is not just a Democrat thing. Corruption is not just a Republican thing. I mean, it happens on both sides. There's billionaires that are Republicans. There's billionaires that are Democrats. There's billionaires that don't give a damn politically, right? And then you have these intelligence agencies. You're not going to get the Epstein files because the billionaire class, the donor class, the elites don't want that information out there. Israel also doesn't want that information out there. So you're not going to get the Epstein files. Some of those people who don't want you to see it are probably in it. So those things are that's why. Same thing. Pay attention now. You're not getting the Epstein files. They just threw some guy out there named Tyler Robinson and told you he's the person who killed Charlie Kirk, and they want everybody to just believe it, even though they haven't shown you any real evidence. Oh, and also the judge doesn't want cameras allowed in the courtroom during the trial. Why? It's not a federal court. But he's asking for that. What is it? What is it they don't want you to see? Has anybody heard from Charlie Kirk's parents? Has anybody heard from Tyler Robinson's parents since that day he was arrested? Not just the statement that they said came from the father, where the father said, well, I turned him in. It's not even a matter of if you like Charlie Kirk or not. It's a matter of weeding out corruption. Kash Patel has made it more obvious than others. I gotta say, I think some of the other FBI directors were not as obvious. But Kash Patel is making it very clear that they're not transparent. His information is incorrect. All this information is not correct. Anytime you have people that can debunk things on their own, just by going through the steps, it's very obvious. He has egg on his face. And then who is he tied to? Who is Kash Patel tied to? Isn't his girlfriend from Israel? Like, just put it all together. They made people believe that you were going to get this pro-peace, anti-corruption administration out of Donald Trump and his team this time around. They really made you believe this. Kash Patel made people believe that. Donald Trump did. Tulsi Gabbard did. RFK Jr. did. We're going to weed out the corruption. We're just going to work together and we're going to make America better. But they're all corrupt, including Kash Patel. So those things weren't going to happen because they're already corrupt people.
You know, I've realized something actually and truly. They made, in retrospect, the absolute best decision not inviting me to speak at Charlie's memorial. Like, kudos to whoever made that call, because I would have just been on my best Kanye. I would have jumped on stage and just grabbed the mic from Susie Wiles or someone and said, are you kidding me? What is going on here? What is happening? Even Trump's speech, remember when he just kind of worked in the story about Charlie interviewing a fourth grader and he was referring to Breland Holland? And I'm saying Holland, by the way, because that was his name when Charlie interviewed him, because Trump wasn't there, nothing to do with Trump. When Charlie went on that fourth grader's podcast, his name was Breland Holland, and I was next to him. It was me and Charlie. What a weird story for Trump to just obscurely pluck out of thin air to say on stage at his memorial. He wasn't there. He had nothing to do with him. The kid had some connections and, of course, was really sweet and adorable and in fourth grade and super polite and energetic and was like, I'd love to interview you. I can't remember who the guy was who was his dad. I got him the interview with us. And all of a sudden, Trump's just saying this story on stage at Charlie's memorial as if he was there. And he wasn't. So what's going on?
What is going on? Why is Donald Trump pretending that he was at an event that he wasn't at? Like, I have to tell you guys, like, I'm not even trying to laugh, but I have to tell you guys. My dad talked to me about this. My dad didn't even know who Charlie Kirk was until he was killed. My dad called me and he said, there is no way they think that we really believe that young boy killed Charlie Kirk. My dad, he's a boomer. And he's not, he listened to some politics, but he's not kind of obsessed with it like I am. Right? But my dad said this. He's like, well, there's no evidence. No evidence. But see, that's where the media comes in. Because you see, corporate media is then supposed to come in and back up those statements from the FBI. And if they just keep saying it over and over, Tyler Robinson killed Charlie Kirk, Tyler Robinson killed Charlie Kirk, well, it will be drilled into your brains and you won't question anything else. And they're all doing it. Fox, CNN, etc. They're all doing it. Why do you guys think they're now calling for, and by they, we're talking about Josh Hammer. Why do you think they're calling for neutralizing Tucker Carlson, etc.? Why do you guys think they're doing this? Why do you guys think they're saying don't talk about it anymore? Just let it go. So this is a big one, and people need to pay attention to this. So Candace is saying that Donald Trump wasn't even at that event, right? And she's saying, what is going on? Did I finish that part? I didn't finish that part. Sorry.
Regarding Kash Patel showing his face there, I legitimately do not know how these people do it. Okay. I would literally die from shame. I would pass away right immediately from shame before I would show up to that event if I was Kash Patel. Like, did they breed it out? Is this a new breed of human that I don't know about? Where you feel nothing, there's just nothing. It's like the Josh Hammer thing. They don't feel any sense of shame at all. And they can just go and pretend that you're honoring. I don't understand it. I truly don't understand it because I have to be a different species from whatever that is. I would melt. I'd rather melt into the floor than show my face, knowing how badly I was dropping the ball. The whole world was dropping the ball. How do you show up to work, Kash Patel?
Money. That's how. Money. Cash don't give a damn. Cash's eyes kind of tell it all, right? Moo, Check this out, though. I'm telling you guys, this is a coordinated effort. Check this out. Chris Brunette said this is a threat. He is talking about this statement that came from Josh Hammer. They hope to burn down MAGA and build a neo-pagan, anti-Western, anti-biblical movement in its stead. The Fox is now comfortably in the hen house. And unless the Fox is neutralized, the victim could be the entire extant GOP coalition itself. That is from Josh Hammer. And if you click on this part here, Jason Whitlock even shared this. Josh Hammer calls for Tucker Carlson to be neutralized. On Monday evening, the most dangerous man in America, Tucker, sat to interview a confused millennial. The Fox, Tucker, is now comfortable ensconced in the hen house. And unless the Fox is neutralized, the victim could be the entire extent GOP coalition itself. Why is he calling for someone to be neutralized? So, and why Tucker Carlson? Because Tucker Carlson just had that interview with Nick Fuentes. So I guess, they're like, that's a no-no, right? What do all of these people have in common? What does Tucker Carlson, Nick Fuentes, Candace Owens all have in common? They criticize Israel. They have question about what happened with Charlie, if there's some type of cover up here. Now you have this guy, Josh Hammer, who apparently was in that group chat. Now he's saying that Tucker Carlson should be neutralized. Is that a hit? Everything is changing. You can see this here. JD Vance is now experiencing the same thing. Everything is changing. We are watching young people question the Israel narrative. This is why they want to neutralize Tucker Carlson, even though I don't agree with Tucker Carlson on most things, but they want to neutralize him. This is why they wanted to put a gag order on Candace Owens to get her to stop talking about this Charlie Kirk situation. This is why. Listen to this.
I'm a Christian man, and I'm just confused why that there's this notion that we might have owe Israel something, or that they're our greatest ally, or that we have to support this multi-hundred-billion-dollar foreign aid package to Israel to cover this, to quote Charlie Kirk, ethnic cleansing in Gaza. I'm just confused why this idea has come around, considering the fact that not only does their religion not agree with ours, but also openly supports the prosecution of ours.
Yeah, so...
Guys, things have changed. Look at the look on JD Vance's face. Let me let him finish what he said.
Let's say a few things about this. First of all, when the President of the United States says America first, that means that he pursues the interests of Americans first. That is our entire foreign policy. And that doesn't mean that you're not going to have alliances, that you're not going to work with other countries from time to time. And that is what the president believes, is that Israel, sometimes they have similar interests to the United States and we're going to work with them in that case. Sometimes they don't have similar interests to the United States. And this example, the most recent Gaza peace plan that all of us have been working on very hard for the past few weeks, the president of the United States could only get that peace deal done by actually being willing to apply leverage to the state of Israel. So when people say that Israel is somehow manipulating or controlling the president of the United States, they're not controlling this president of the United States, which is one of the reasons why we'd be able to have some of the success that we've had in the Middle East. Now, you ask about, sort of Jews disagreeing with Christians on certain religious ideas. Yeah, absolutely. It's one of the realities is that Jews do not believe that Jesus Christ is the Messiah. Obviously, Christians do believe that. There are some significant theological disagreements between Christians and Jews. My attitude is, let's have those conversations. Let's have those disagreements when we have them. But if there are shared areas of interest, we ought to be willing to do that too. For example, one thing I really care about is the preservation of the Church of the Holy Sepulchre in Jerusalem. Christians believe that that is the site where Jesus Christ was crucified, and also that his tomb is right there as well. My attitude is, if we can work with our friends in Israel to make sure that Christians have safe access to that site, that's an obvious area of common interest. I am fine with that. What I'm not okay with is any country coming before the interests of American citizens, and it is important for all of us, assuming we're American citizens, to put the interest of our own country first. That's what we're going to do. That's what we try to do every single day, I promise you.
But you can't do that as long as you're putting Israel first. So you see, look, bruh, I'm just going to keep it real. There is something that is changing. We talk about what is at risk. The reason why Kash Patel is not going to let him look deeper into those files is because one or two reasons. One, there is foreign intel there that he doesn't want seen, right? Or two, there's nothing really there. There's nothing really there that can really connect anything to Tyler Robinson concretely. If there's nothing to hide, you should have no problem showing this information, and pay very close attention. We're going to, honestly, what's today's date? We're October 30th, right? Okay. By the time you guys see the clip, it'll be Halloween, October 31st. So here's the thing. We're going to start counting these damn days. I'm going to see how long it takes before we see Tulsi Gabbard reappear again to discuss this issue. Tulsi Gabbard was on Fox News. She was on, was she on MSNBC? I guess coming on there sometimes, but she was appearing on Fox News pretty regularly. Now she just ghosts. And they said that she was in the meeting, but she's nowhere to be found. Very quiet, that Tulsi now. I don't know, you guys. I don't know. And who knows, right? We may never find out why these things happen. We may never find out what all took place here. I mean, look how many years it took for us to find out. You know, they said this person killed that person. And then 20 years later, find out, oh, look, it was the FBI and the CIA who killed that person. So something is up here. I'll be surprised if Kash Patel lasts the entire administration, but at this point, hell, anything's possible. But something is up. Erica Kirk is very quiet now. I don't know. But the point is, at the end of the day, there's a lot of corruption that's happening. And what we have become to know is that at the end of the day, this government is not going to do anything that throws Israel under the bus. So let's just put the pieces of the puzzle together. Let's go to some of the comments here, ladies and gents. All right. Thank you for the super chats, William. People say Kash had to lie, but he's a good guy. People say that. Thank you, Roger. She been sidelined since speaking out against Iran. So it's been that long then, Roger. Tulsi Gabbard. So it's been that long since. Yeah, I noticed it's I haven't seen her in a while. Mark said, in my opinion, this is like Kennedy Part 2, where you have to have the domestic agency, the FBI or the CIA bring in the hitmen who work for another agency or country. That's an interesting point. Thank you, William. Was that Tyler jumping off the roof? 14 feet drop, 10 feet? I mean, these are all great questions. Brooklyn said, I heard the parents weren't down with politics or religion. That was some sort of schism. The parents didn't go to the memorial. They in Chicago, I think, Sabs. Interesting. Again, you guys judge for yourself. Texas Grown said, what I'm telling y'all, they got internet spoofy on YouTube investigating video. He's part of the setup. Watch out for new content. Sabby Solid peeps. Okay, I will do that. Thank you, Mountain Star. All should review the 1998 movie Snake Eyes. The house always wins. So many, too many similarities. I have to check that out. Thank you for this one. Question. Those that question the questioners. And thank you, Chip. JD Vance's wife is just about to leave him. He is washed up. Oh, damn. All righty. I don't know, guys. We'll just have to see what happens. Someone told me that my thumbnail was spelled wrong. Oh, shoot. I'll fix that. Thanks for the heads up. This is what happens when I try to rush. When I try to rush to do things. Anyway, that is it for me tonight, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to resume call-in next week. I had an appointment scheduled for this morning, and that has now been changed to tomorrow morning. That's why we can't do call-in tonight, but we will resume it next week. So stay tuned for that, ladies and gents. And I will see you guys live again Sunday. So have a good night. Keep up the fight.